Cheers,
successful 2023.
Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here.
I'll talk about whatever. My life's all kinds of crazy.
Hit the bell!
Because you have an Android.
Oh, yeah. Sorry. Just suck.
Just subscribe already.
And you do go by Robert, not Rob?
Yeah, go by Robert. Yeah.
Okay. You ready to hop into it?
Sure, absolutely. Yeah.
Well, welcome to the welcome to the podcast, Robert.
Yeah, absolutely. No, this is really fun because I love connecting with people.
You guys, YouTube's telling me that 75% of you guys are not subscribed. That's absolutely insane because I upload almost every single day. So make sure you guys hit the subscribe with the bell so you guys never miss a video.
And this is cool. You guys set aside time so we could just have a good conversation. And this is like, a big treat. So
Yeah.
I appreciate that.
So how I met Robert was I went to a collective event last Thursday, and it was just, it's like an event where a bunch of I think they consider it like young entrepreneurs.
Yeah, like young professionals. Yeah.
They all get together. Well, the guys in it decided, hey, we should do a guys event.
Yeah.
Like a gentleman's night kind of thing. And they wanted to come to your facility. So you have Leatherwood, and it's a cigar lounge.
Yeah.
Over in St. James, Missouri. And it was my first time ever being there, but it was an awesome place.
Well, thank you.
And that's why, like, whenever after the whole event, I was like, hey, I would love to have you on my podcast.
Yeah.
And we sat around and talked for maybe like 30 minutes or so after everybody else left, just because I've been wanting to get into cigars for a while now. And whenever I started my podcast last June, and I had bought this little treasure chest back there is what I put my cigars in.
Okay.
And it's not a humidor. And that's something we talked about too. Whenever I was talking to you, you gave me those bags.
You have those bags, right?
I do have those bags.
Okay, good.
I actually haven't put anything in them yet because I think I want to get some.
Sure.
I want to get some new cigars for them.
Sure. Yeah. But at least that way you have them.
Yes.
Because that's where your flavor lives.
Yes.
Like really,
I'm probably going to come to you and I'm going to be like, hey, what do I need?
Sure, that'll be
and
fun.
hopefully we can talk about it on the podcast today.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah.
'Cause I'm hoping maybe you can help me figure out what kind of cigars I might want.
Sure.
Or what kind of cigars I like or something like that.
Yeah, no, that would be fun.
I'm hoping we can educate myself and some people that listen to the podcast today. But yeah, you were like, yeah, you definitely need these.
Sure.
Because they're going to dry out.
Yeah.
And they lose flavor too if you don't have them in a humidor?
Yeah, so we found like it's kind of a mixture between like coffee beans, bottles of wine. There's different things that lose flavor based off of either how they're stored or presenting oxygen or presenting like different things to that equation, right? So if you have a cigar, the deceiving thing about that is so many times people think, oh, a cigar is supposed to taste like an ashtray. So what's the point of anything? Because it's just supposed to taste bad. But before I was even into whiskeys, I always thought, oh, every whiskey tastes like Jim Beam. So I'm really not like, and Jim Beam can be okay. I'm not a fan of it. It reminds me of some really bad memories and it kind of initiates the gag reflex when I smell it.
Sure.
But just for me personally, okay, so when I was a good friend of mine, he owns In Collective. He's one of my best friends, and he's taken me through a lot of different things on a journey like of discovery and learning things, and also learning to have an idea for like passion for detail. But long story short, he introduced me to a whiskey, and it was called Noah's Mill.
Okay.
And I tasted it, expecting, I was like, okay, this is bourbon. Okay, whatever. I'm probably going to gag a little bit, and I'll just go back quick, right? So as soon as I bring it up to my nose, I smell like these deep, rich notes. I taste a little bit of it. I'm like, this is something really special, right? And so then it made me realize that over and over again. So when I associate sometimes when I haven't tried a good version of it, I just associate, oh, it's probably going to not be that good or it's going to be awful. So what's the point? So that's a long way of saying with a cigar, when you get into it, actually the humidity, the temperature, those different things guard that flavor articulation. Gotcha. And unfortunately, a cigar can look exactly the same as if it was stored improperly, but the flavor is really what's going to change. So you can look at it between a cigar that's been stored well, not stored well. They might look exactly the same. One's going to actually taste like flavor. One's going to taste like just hot trash.
Yeah.
And that's what's unfortunate because then it's a little more complicated. It's not just...
So like whenever I go to pick out a cigar, There really is is it difficult to be able to just look at a cigar and tell if it's good?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah. Sometimes you'll look at a cigar and you'll be like, the shape looks beautiful. Like, or you'll really fall in love with maybe the shade of the tobacco, the way that process of aging will have a different shade. And you'll look at it and be like, oh, wow, that looks like a really rich, deep leather tone, or that looks like a chocolate, like that makes me really like, I'm drawn to it. But you won't be able to know if like, oh, because that thing is brown, it'll be medium. And because it's completely black, it'll be super strong. You will never know that just by looking at a cigar. And that's another thing that's just kind of unfortunately thought of as how you judge a cigar.
Yeah, that's where the problem with going to I have to go to a smoke shop locally to get a cigar.
Sure.
I can't go, like I can go to you.
Yeah.
And whenever I'm looking for cigars, I'm probably going to go to you now.
Yeah.
Unless I just need, like, maybe I'm just really low and I just want to add a bunch, or I don't know. But if I'm going to pick out some nice cigars, I want to come to a shop like yours where I can kind of look around and there's some detail. Because in your shop, is that room considered a humidor?
Yes.
The whole entire room?
Yeah.
So you have a whole room when you walk into your facility with all these different types of cigars, but there's labels on them and they tell you exactly what they are. And do they tell you what they kind of go with? Like if you're going to smoke it, do they tell you if they go with like a bourbon?
Yeah. So to answer your question, no, on the bourbon side or on that side. So we'll talk people through different pairings. Pairings can be really subjective sometimes, but also cigars are really broke down in a few different categories that get a little confusing if you're just on the glance. So you can actually have cigars that are strong in flavor and very, very weak in the naturally occurring nicotine. You can also have the opposite. You can have cigars that are extremely heavy in nicotine, really light in flavor. So again, both of those categories might pair fantastic with a bourbon whiskey, but not knowing a little bit about the person's palate or about the person's tolerance, if they would just be like, oh, this is a Hall of Fame bourbon pairing, and then 30 minutes later, their eyebrows are going to be sweating and their legs are going to feel kind of numb, and they're like, I'm never having a cigar again. This is awful.
Because of the high nicotine.
Yeah. And there's different factors that go into it, but yeah, for sure.
I think that's a big problem with me because the only nicotine I consume at all is a cigar.
Okay, yeah.
And it's the occasional cigar. And I'm,
Sure.
like I said, I've been trying to get into them and learn more about them, but it's very hard to learn by just winging it.
Yeah.
Because I can buy a random cigar, but I don't know nothing about it. I don't know what kind of nicotine's in it.
Sure.
And I've had some, like I've tried random ones.
Yeah.
And yeah, I've had some that are very high in nicotine, and I'm not a fan. Like and there's, especially if you sit there and smoke the whole entire cigar.
Sure.
It can be a lot.
Yeah. Well, and it's funny too, because like if you have people that like coffee, those people don't always like that, super high end, like caffeinated energy drink. So them associating like, oh, well, if you like coffee, you got to love, this caffeine pills. It's got the same thing, but it's totally different,
Different.
And there's also naturally occurring and then chemically, crafted, like, or chemically altered. And that's a big thing too, because cigar has such a huge, wide term that covers a lot of different things.
Sure.
You can have paper products that are still considered a cigar. So that for us, we really wanted to zoom in on handmade, only tobacco, and the only thing that's deriving that flavor and that nicotine is just the tobacco being fermented. That's it. It's not having injected of grape flavoring or putting sugar on the inside of the all of that stuff. That's really what we're
basically the ones that you get from the gas station.
So yeah, but it's
Like your Swisher Sweet or something.
Yeah, so that's definitely a paper product or a product that's like that. You can call it a cigar, but that's really why we focus on handmade cigars. And then it gets even more, how do you say it? There's even nuances to that because you can have a really good craft cocktail, and that craft cocktail will have a simple syrup in it, right? You can do that, and you can do that with a top shelf whiskey. But you're kind of at a different level again there than just getting a canned cocktail that says beer burrito or whatever those things. So there's different levels to it. But really, we wanted to focus. Julie and I really wanted to handcraft an experience that's honing people in on that journey of these are like works of art that you get to enjoy for just a little period of time, And it's really about the flavor. It's not about altering your body chemistry or about creating a habit where you have to buy a pack a day of something.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's exactly why I'm very pulled to it. To me, it's even part of the experience.
Right.
Like I have no interest in buying a cheap cigar and smoking it. I'm not personally growing up. My dad smoked cigarettes.
Yeah.
So
okay.
it really pushed me away from smoking of any kind because
Sure.
I didn't like the smell.
Sure.
But for me, it was a large amount of it is the experience. Is coming to your facility that is so cool. I shared a video on Facebook.
Okay.
The video I did, I shared it on Facebook, and people loved it.
Yeah. Okay.
And I think it's just the whole experience behind like the whole vibe of the facility. When you go in, you have this private area in the back that is hidden by a bookshelf.
Yeah.
And then you walk back into the back, and I even went to when I went to Naples, Florida. I went to a cigar lounge.
Okay.
And the difference between your cigar lounge and this cigar lounge is when you walked in this place, it was extremely smoky. There was smoke just lingering in the air. I didn't like that.
Sure.
When I was in Europe, and that was it wasn't even really a concern, but it was a thought that did pass through my mind when I was coming to your facility. And just because like I've been in areas where people are smoking cigars or they're playing poker and smoking cigars.
Yeah.
And it's like hotboxing a room.
Right.
And it can be overwhelming.
Yeah.
For me at least.
Yeah.
And so when I came in your facility, you have this back room, and the experience of it is so nice. You have a bar back there. People keep their bourbons in lockers back there. You can keep your personal bourbon in your facility, right?
Yeah.
You can get a locker and keep your personal bourbon in it.
So do you mind if I stop you there? Because this is interesting. You're touching on something exactly that we really wanted to have as a part of telling that story. So so many times it's unfortunate that this industry is kind of has these different things that are not a part of really what we wanted to showcase. And just like people like steak, but they don't want to go to a place where they're taking, jumping in a hot tub of steak sauce and smelling like steak for a week after enjoying a steak. And that was a big thing for us. Like, we did not want you to walk away completely like covered where I need to burn my clothes. I need to do something else before, because this is supposed to be, before dinner, after dinner, going to something else nice, like being able to do something that is adding to human connection or adding to the moment. And there's nothing more distracting than smelling awful when trying to add to a moment. And so I love how you picked up on that, because that's a big thing to us. Like,
I'm really big into the experiences of life. And so whenever I was coming there, it was somewhere like I know just local bars that they allow people to smoke in. And I know people that, it doesn't really bother me, but I definitely understand it. Like, I know people that won't go to this bar because when they leave, they're like, I had to wash my clothes. I had to come home, take a shower, and wash my clothes. I didn't feel like I had to do that. After leaving your facility, because when you're in this room, when we talked about it, we talked about the links that you had to go to get it to where the smoke doesn't linger.
Right.
We had 10 guys in there.
Right.
Was it 10 including you, or is it 10 guys that came to the collective?
I want to say it was, roughly 10. I want to say the night was floating around 12, because I know some people weren't able to stay the entire time, but I think a solid number was 10 that stuck like the whole thing. Yeah.
And we're all in there smoking a cigar.
Yeah.
And I never once even felt like there was smoke lingering.
Yeah.
Like it was there was no like smoke even in the air. It was just because we talked about it after.
Yeah.
You have a whole system that sucks the air out, or it separates it, right?
So
smoke from there.
Yeah.
It's very interesting how you can do that.
So again, it's funny because that's all like you could go way more overcomplicated than what you would need to by me like trying to talk about like those different things. But again, Julie and I really are passionate about detail, and we're very passionate about telling a story. And what we found is like distractions along the way, then that becomes the story. Then you kind of miss what you're trying to communicate, right? So that smoke, smell, those different things are distractions. They're not part of the story. There's nothing about, smelling someone else's like smoke or having a room full of smoke that tells anything about that story. So doing that, we were like, okay, how do we do this, put this system together? And we had talked about that, and it was tricky because nobody has a formula to do that. And it's
the local HVAC company, does not build cigar lounges, so they don't understand what it needs.
Correct.
What needs to be done.
And sometimes things are just passed off as that's acceptable because this is a common thing, so that's okay. So we're still like, there's still different pieces that I want to get better with it. But what's funny about the whole thing is, we went on a deep dive for about 3 years while we're doing the other pieces of construction and learning about what happens with this smoke. Why does it smell bad? What are different things about it? And then come to find out just one element of it is ammonia. And I never realized that, but the chlorophyll in the tobacco leaf, when it burns, when it combusts, it gives off ammonia. It turns into ammonia. And that becomes very offensive, like that sting. Now, the aroma of the actual tobacco burning, the actual oil, it has a very pleasant, very rich aroma. And that's actually used for fragrances. Okay. That's a really particular thing.
Is that what, when people walk, like when you're walking by and you smell a cigar in the air, is that what you smell?
You're getting an element of that. Yes, gotcha. Absolutely. And the more, the better the cigar is stored, the more oil that's retained. Yeah, excellent. Yeah, retained in that leaf, then the better that aroma, those different things. So again, if you have a cigar that's really expensive but completely dried out, you're going to be smelling more ammonia, smell more offensive because you're not getting that oil.
Sure.
So that's, yeah.
So I hope we don't get too sidetracked, but
no, not at all. No.
And like the wrap of a cigar, where is the nicotine at in it? Is it in the tobacco that's inside of the cigar, or is it in the wrap of the cigar?
Yeah. Okay. So I told you, did I tell you this when we were talking? I'm a podcast guy. Like I love podcasts.
Yeah, we did.
Okay.
We talked about it a little bit. Yeah.
Okay. So Huberman Labs.
Okay.
He did a podcast that really went on a deep dive about nicotine. And the only, it's not a knock. The only like add I would have to that podcast is he never really brought up naturally occurring nicotine by way of like organic tobacco. So he talked about, cigarette delivery nicotine. He talked about vapes, things like that. But what's interesting is he did bring up that nicotine is naturally occurring in things like potatoes and tomatoes and different things like that. So that's what's
Wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah, absolutely. So nicotine is naturally occurring. You also have things that can be chemically created or chemically altered. And
is that where a vape comes in?
Sure, sure. You have some elements of that for sure because it's definitely there's more chemistry to it than closer. But the more you get closer to form from how the plant was harvested, the more money's involved. So also, like if you're looking to turn a profit and you're trying to get a very replicatable, duplicatable process, you're not going to be, hey, this growing tobacco organically, then naturally fermenting the tobacco just with water. Okay, that's going to take forever. We might as well get some tobacco that's already been harvested by someone else that they can't use. Let's chop it up. Let's put some, flavor stabilizers and some burn stabilizers and then wrap it in some paper and then call it something that's a little more reliable product, right?
Yeah, and something that you could scale.
Sure. Like more mass produce.
Yes.
So just like small batch whiskeys, this is only 1,000 a run, and then once it's gone, it's gone. Closer to form than that. So when we're talking about what's occurring nicotine-wise, so every part of that plant has some elements of nicotine in it, of the tobacco. Certain parts have more. There's a leaf called Lajero leaf that lives, or that, how would you say it? That location-wise on the plant is higher up on the plant.
Oh,
and
okay.
I think it kind of has like a Christmas tree shape, like the way that the leaf is shaped. But anyway, it's higher up on the plant, and I guess because it gets more nutrients fed from the stalk of the plant, and also a certain way that it reacts to its growth, it is extremely strong in the naturally occurring nicotine. So some cigars that are stronger in nicotine have more of those Lajero leaves in them. And a side note that those don't burn very efficiently. So another thing that's about a cigar is if you look at the cigar, if it's burning even, and if it has a really pretty ash, like it has a really uniform and very pleasant looking shape to it, that's also a hallmark of good construction.
Okay.
That's the hallmark of the artistry of rolling it, because they're not designed to burn like that, because one, you're humidifying it, so that makes it more difficult to burn, but also because naturally occurring nicotine, or one's leaves that have a lot more nicotine, they are going to be a lot more difficult to burn. So the skill of the roller is deciding, oh, well, I need to wrap it with these leaves that have a little more even burn. I'm going to hide the seam this way. We're going to roll it this way. There's a lot that goes into it.
Yeah.
Versus like a cigarette, we're going to put this chemical on it so it actually burns very even. And if you stop puffing on it, it'll go out at a certain time. So then we don't get sued, someone's mattress burning down or whatever.
Yeah.
So,
those cigarettes are crazy.
Right. So,
Those things
yeah.
are insane.
But unfortunately, the industry really tries to put it all together and say this is a tobacco product. Which there's a deep dive I can go on that with you, but we've probably gone way too far off on that. I want to
No, that's fine.
Yeah,
I was just wondering, so the tobacco, what's in the cigar also has nicotine in it.
Correct. Yeah.
Along with the wrap around it also has nicotine in it.
Yeah, because it's all tobacco leaves that are cigars. They're handmade cigars and they're just made from tobacco leaves. So tobacco leaves generally have naturally occurring nicotine. Longer fermented leaves have less. Longer aged, it ages out. And then also different types of tobacco have more or less nicotine. So that's how that works. A lot of, even with blonde roast coffees or like dark roasts or different things will have more caffeine, less caffeine, different types. And then also how it's created is going to retain more or less.
So whenever I'm looking for a cigar that, maybe would have a little less nicotine in it, I've kind of now just realized that I like the fatter cigars.
Okay.
I just enjoy that.
Sure.
But I just try to go for a shorter one most of the time.
Yeah.
Just because I don't know what I'm going to get. I've had cigars the longer ones that are fine. They seem to be low in nicotine and it's a acceptable amount of nicotine for me and I enjoy it. It also depends on the way I smoke it sometimes too.
Absolutely.
If I'm puffing on it a bunch and taking a lot of it in, I feel like the nicotine really hits me.
Sure.
Versus, whenever I went to the event at your place, we were doing a lot of talking. I think my cigar went out like 3 times, 4 times, just because I was talking so much and I didn't want to be rude and just keep puffing on the cigar while I was trying to talk to someone. So I kind of gone that way. But whenever I go to your facility or a facility when I was in Naples, do they say how would you gauge it? You don't really know until you just try it.
So gauge off of how much nicotine you're going to get?
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah. So age statement, that's a big thing. So certain cigars that we have are aged up to 10 years.
Oh.
You have a lot less nicotine at that point. They're also not made with quite as much Ligero leaf because, again, that has more naturally occurring nicotine. So that changes the equation big time. So age statement, things like that. And then also what you've had in your system that day too changes that equation. So if you're like, hey, I really would like a cigar that's, you said, larger ring gauge, shorter, but I want a cigar for mid-afternoon. Okay, well, yeah, have you had a lunch or are you still kind of on a fasting system? Where are you at? And that's going to dictate that. Also when you enjoy a cigar, when taking a draw in, lung contact, you don't want any lung contact. Your lungs are a lot more sensitive, so they're going to pick up that nicotine different, and it actually ruins the flavor putting any tobacco in your lungs.
Oh, really?
It kills the flavor. Yeah.
I always knew not to inhale it. I knew it was a lot harsher.
Sure.
On the lungs, but it's just because your lungs are more sensitive.
Yeah, well, it picks up the nicotine different for sure. If the cigar is a lighter blend of tobacco, if the tobacco that's harvested, the way it's blended is not super zesty or pepper forward, it might not even feel harsh to your lungs. You might hardly not even feel anything, but it's going to kill the flavor.
Okay.
Because you're going to taste it totally differently. Have you ever experienced when you eat onions, how you're kind of breathing that smell later? You're trying to get rid of it, but even mince or something doesn't quite get rid. If you have an onion salad or whatever.
Yes, I definitely know what you're talking about.
Okay. That's what happened.
Oh man, I still feel like I had onions for lunch, but it's 6 o'clock now. I still feel like I'm.
Yeah, it's like onion menthol coming out of your nose.
Yes.
Yeah. So that's what's happening. It's changing your senses by putting it in your lungs.
Gotcha.
So you want to taste a cigar on your palate, and then sometimes you want to taste a cigar with your nose, but that's it. You do not want to have it going anywhere past that. So that helps you on nicotine, and it also helps you on the flavor.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. And then when you mentioned about getting nicotine as well, mouth contact. Yeah. How much is the cigar in your mouth? That's going to give you more nicotine, less nicotine.
Well, what's up with the guys that chew on the end?
Yeah.
Before it? Is that just Is that just a weird cigar guy thing?
Well, so
something to
yeah,
it?
so it's hilarious. So
I hate
I don't even know if it's a term, but I just call it. You don't have to boss hog a cigar. One, you don't have to like be chewing on it and keep it in your mouth, or if you're keeping it in your mouth while you're trying to enjoy it, you're gonna have more nicotine contact. But I think some people will use a cigar as like a little more natural. If it's a handmade cigar, a natural form of chew. They might be doing it because of that. They also just might be doing it to get attention. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's not for me. It's kind of distracting. I don't really get but
I just hate seeing them because I've seen
yeah.
some guys chew it and it's like slobbery on the end.
Sure,
and it's
sure.
all destroyed and like it's just like falling apart.
Right.
I'm like, dude, you just completely destroyed that thing.
Right.
It looks weird. I feel like I'd be getting tobacco like in my teeth.
Yeah.
Like all over my lips and stuff. Because when you cut a cigar on the end,
Yeah.
a lot of times what I'll do is I'll like actually like kind of like just wetting like the end there just so the tobacco leaves kind of stay in.
Sure.
Because I'll get it like on my lips and stuff. And so I'm like, I mean, it's just silly things.
No. I mean, yeah. Sometimes if the tobacco is like dried out, if you cut it, it's gonna like get way more particles. But also, if the cigar is made with small particles and not like long leaves, then you're gonna get a ton of particles when you cut it because all it is particles. So again, that's also a hallmark of a better cigar or a less expensive cigar is how big those pieces are. So long.
What are you looking for?
You're looking for the closest to that tobacco leaf.
Long
tobacco
ones,
leaves are
particles
huge.
are-
Yeah. So
let me cut open. Let's cut open a couple cheap cigars I have here.
Yeah.
I wish I would have bought some now. I wish I would have bought you most expensive cigar.
Well, no. It's perfect because when you come back now talking about all this, you'll kind of have a little more frame of reference. Because I don't want people just to get cigars and have no clue what they're getting, because price again doesn't always equal the best when it comes to a certain thing. We take a lot of time on selecting things at many different price points, but that's still quality. Just like with certain bourbons.
I've heard that a lot.
Yeah, well, you have a bourbon, the Old Granddad 114, that tastes way above its weight class.
Does it? I haven't tried it. A guest gave it to me.
Okay. So there's
James Johnson. He's like, hey, I heard this is really good.
Yeah. But I'm sure you've heard like there's certain allocated bourbons that are extremely expensive, and they're like, I kind of wish I had Eagle Rare, or I kind of just wish I had this instead of that Grail piece, because sometimes either your palate's not up to that age statement, or sometimes it's just you're only paying for that kind of like Pokemon card feel.
Part of me is I have to try them all.
Yeah.
Like, I have to try them to actually like take it in and understand it.
Yeah.
Like unless like I actually experience it and do it, it's hard for me to like understand it sometimes.
Okay. Yeah.
So that's kind of why I wanted to try this.
Sure.
See what it looks like.
Yeah. Let's do it. Yeah. Let's see what we got.
Yeah. So this is the bag she gave me. These ones, I never know how to pronounce them.
La Aroma de Cuba. So those aren't bad. Those are not bad cigars. Yeah.
I paid $40 for a 5-pack of them.
Okay.
Apparently.
Yeah. Okay.
Apparently. This is whenever I go to the smoke shop, I try to look around and not just go to the cheapest ones.
Sure.
I try to actually look for some decent ones. I feel like I've seen these before.
So what's interesting about this is that's actually made by one of our families. What's also interesting about that is...
Wait, let's not skim over that. When you say it's made by one of our families.
Yeah, okay. So again, Julie and I, we wanted to tell a very specific story. A big part of that story is only featuring family-owned companies. So what you get then is more true to form to heritage of what they're growing and creating, but also you get... we really believe in kind of keeping that story alive. There's a lot of corporations, there's a lot of things out there that make sense for other people, but we really want to hone in on that because we think it's underrepresented.
Okay.
So
when you say your family, you're talking just like...
one of the families we represent create those cigars.
Okay, cool.
So what's also interesting about you picking those is, do you remember how I said humidity? That's where the flavor lives. Okay, so those cigars aren't just loose on the shelf randomly. They wanted to make sure if it's in that place, that it's in that special humidified
bag
pouch. Yeah.
So,
for those
but the
cigars.
thing is like your humidified pouch, something that you showed me was that, I guess there is a back pouch on it, huh?
Yeah.
Okay. I see, amazing, because I had no clue when I bought it.
Yeah.
And you even asked me, you're like, are they in some type of humidified pouch? And I'm like, nah.
Yeah.
Like they're just in the bag they came in.
Sure.
I had no clue. It even says it on it now.
Yeah.
But when I'm looking at it, I know nothing about it.
Right. You wouldn't know, but just by looking at it. But that's a good thing about that because, again, they took that extra step to like, okay, so if we can't guarantee the venue, we're at least going to guarantee the delivery.
Mm-hmm.
That the delivery is, yeah.
But how long do you think it lasts? Because you explained to me that in the pouch that you gave me, it has a packet in it that will dry out over time.
For sure. So it
has.
So
like
that, yeah. So I've heard it said different ways. I'm probably saying it wrong. Bovita. That's another company we love because they do such a good job about making humidity less about fairy dust and unicorns, and you got to have a humidor that's made out of this particular wood in order to have your cigars stay. They really get rid of a lot of that and have a reliable way to humidify, but then also have a way to absorb excess humidity because that rises during temperature, during changes in so you also need a way to absorb it because your little cigars are like sponges. They're going to pop if they're over humidified. You don't want that.
Oh, okay.
And
yeah, because they're soaking in like the moisture.
Correct.
Okay.
So Bovitas does a great job with regulating that, but making it accessible to people that don't have time to make a degree out of learning. I just want to have a good cigar and I don't want it to be dried out. So they do a great job with that.
So if you left a cigar out, especially in like the humid summer air in Missouri,
Yeah.
how long would it take outside before it just soaked in all that moisture?
So, yeah, it's gradual.
Like if you left it out overnight, would it be ruined?
Yeah, it's not going to be good at all. Yeah, it's not because that dries out in that case. One, it's going to swell, but then two, humidity that has minerals in it is going to have way more issues with your cigar because that has bacteria and has a way to get bacteria than humidity that's by way of distilled water or by way of reverse osmosis water, because then you're not going to have mold issues or have those other factors. Because again, you're dealing with a natural product, so you have natural elements.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So like fresh baked bread is going to mold way quicker than gummy bears that have tons of, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Things like that,
Yeah, yeah.
or like a McDonald's Big Mac. I mean, you put that on the shelf and
Have you seen the video of them where they take a McDonald's hamburger and then they just leave it out and see how long it takes it to like start to mold? And
it really freaks me out. It does freak me out. But in one way though, I stopped eating McDonald's a long time ago because I noticed every time I either felt awful about myself or I get sick.
Yeah.
Just I don't feel good.
Same.
Yeah.
I had to be in extreme need of food to eat any fast food at all. I mean, any fast food. And if I do, a lot of times I'm rolling to the chicken side.
Yeah.
Which I'm not saying the chicken's much better.
But sure, yeah. But
I don't know why I go with it.
No,
feel like
I get
it's
it.
lighter.
Sure.
Less grease in it.
Sure.
At least like I don't. When I open up and there's like grease in the bag, I'm like, I can't even eat this stuff. Like I have to. It just grosses me out anymore.
Well, it's funny too. I don't know what the psychology is behind it, but sometimes also watching those health documentaries, I had to be careful because sometimes when I'd see those things about McDonald's, as weird as it would be, and as it would freak me out, sometimes it'd make me crave McDonald's more. I have no idea why in the hell it's like that, but sometimes after watching a documentary about how bad things are and like you should be having green juices and all this stuff, like Julia would be like all on board and she'd be like, this next week I'm gonna be having green juice. But something about seeing that footage of fries like staying out for like 8 months and people talking about fries and burgers, I'm like, actually McDonald's kind of sounds really good, even though I know it's killing me. Like I don't know what
Well, it's amazing how everybody knows McDonald's is bad for you.
Yeah.
No, and there's nobody on this earth that would probably say McDonald's, probably the owner of McDonald's. I don't even know if he would say it's the greatest food ever.
No.
But
no, I don't think. Yeah.
We all know it, yet every time I go by, there's a line all the way out to the road.
Oh, yeah.
It's always packed. Every day for lunch, it's packed.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah. It's reliable. There's many different things.
Cheap, fast, reliable.
Even the name makes me crave McDonald's sometimes. Like, I'm just like, oh, that sounds like, but I had to like figure out something to replace it with just because I realized, as fun as it is, I had goals that I needed to, that was distracting from it. So I was like, okay, so I'm going to limit that because is my love for McDonald's more or is my love for like getting to where I need to go more?
Yeah.
And then just kind of.
Big part was me just feeling better in life too.
Sure.
Just feeling better every single day. And I'm a big challenger guy. I like to challenge myself and just see what I'm capable of.
Yeah.
And one of them was I wanted to see how long I could go without fast food. Like I wanted to see, I wanted to see if I could go a year without eating any fast food.
So when was this?
Ooh, this was back in 2015.
Okay.
2015, 2016, somewhere in there.
When you set that out, why did you pick the year? I'm just curious. Like what the year
Just
mark?
need a new challenge.
Okay.
I like in 2013, one of my challenges was I just like woke up one day. This was when I was just doing little challenges for myself just to see what I was like mentally capable of, like if I had the mental discipline to do it. And I never really challenged myself, and soda was the first thing I tried.
Okay.
I was at a point in my life where I was making changes, and this was before I even worked out, but I was like, I just want to try to get a little better shape. I think I had gone to the dentist the day before and maybe had like a small cavity.
Yeah.
And I just remember I was like, I don't eat a lot of candy.
Yeah.
Like I brush my teeth all the time. Like, how did I get this cavity? And part of it can be just genetics.
Sure.
Teeth genetics.
Sure.
But they're like, you drink a lot of soda, and I'm like, well, yeah, I guess I probably do. I probably have a soda a day, and I realized that the only reason I was drinking a soda was because I could go and get a 99-cent bottled soda at the gas station, or a fountain soda for 82 cents. It's 44 ounces. Or I could go buy a water for $1.15 or something like that.
Right.
And it was I just bought the soda because it was cheaper a lot of times, or maybe it was convenient. Like there was a soda machine that a soda was 50 cents, or I could go buy a bottle of water for $1.
Yeah.
So I just get the soda a lot of times. But I realized I didn't really care about it. I just did it because it was convenient.
Sure.
And so I was like, I'm just going to see if I can quit.
Yeah.
And it was just a random day. I just like, I'm going to start tomorrow. And then I never went back. I have had like a sip, or maybe like a whiskey and Pepsi.
Sure.
But not, it's very rare. I'm not even, if I'm going to drink a whiskey, I'm going to drink it on the rocks.
Sure.
So I don't drink a ton of whiskey anyway, but if I am, I'm going to just sip on it. Very rare.
Isn't it weird how when you taste soda after being on it for a long time and you go back to it, you're like, how in the world did I drink something this sweet?
Yeah.
Like it's bizarre.
Yeah. It was so easy for me to drop.
Yeah.
I could care less about it.
Yeah.
There is sure, I did love Mountain Dew.
Yeah.
Like it has like a crazy taste, crazy good taste, but like I never crave it.
Yeah.
It's not a big deal. I did like root beer.
Yeah.
Root beer is like it has a very unique flavor.
Sure.
I would if somebody offered me root beer, I would take a sip or two, but
Yeah.
you're never going to see me going to the gas station and buying it, or there's a lot of times where before I quit the fast food stuff, I would get a fountain, like they would, you buy a meal, hamburger and fries, and it
Right.
comes with a large drink, and I would just go fill it up with water, just because I like water.
Yeah.
I don't. I've heard people say they don't like water. I'm like, how can you not like water? Like a large part of your body is made up of water.
Yeah.
Like how can you not like it?
Yeah.
Like I feel like that if there's one thing that's true to humans is water.
For sure.
Like I didn't even think it was like an option.
I used to
Like it or
love
not,
Dr. Pepper, and then I'd stopped drinking it for the longest time, and then I was like, someone was having like Dr. Pepper, and I was like, oh, that kind of sounds good. I'm gonna try some. And I was trying to drink a little bit of it. I'm like, I can't even get past like how sweet this is now. Like this is
So you don't drink soda either?
no.
When did you quit it?
I don't think there was actually quitting date, because it wasn't like something that was like just a hard like I had to have it every day. But
You just
probably 10 years ago, I just decided to I'm gonna kind of limit that, because it's not. It was
it's
like,
not benefiting your life.
right.
Yeah, it's interesting how people get to that point in their life where they just decide like, oh, this isn't important to me anymore.
Right.
You just cut it out.
But there's kind of a trap of like ritual too that I've noticed. So like when you're talking about like every day or having a sip of something, like if that's really important to me, then let's enjoy it. Let's park some time and let's enjoy it. Like if I really want a soda, let's enjoy a soda. But are we just doing things like by way of like sleeplessly kind of like going through the motions, and you're not really enjoying anything? Like I'm having something that's super sugary, I'm having something that's super salty, I'm having something that's fast, quick, all this stuff, but there's no appreciation for anything along the way. And then it just kind of cheapens it. Because I don't knock someone that if they're like, oh, I love having root beer, or I love doing this, like, but what I'm trying to stay away from me personally is just going through something because it's convenient and then processing the experience, and not having the experience.
You
It just
lose
makes it
your
cheap.
joy for it too.
Yes.
When you consume it all the time.
That's a huge thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not special. It's just like, oh, well, I feel like I'm getting some kind of value because it's a 55-gallon drum of like Mountain Dew that I'm getting with my burger, but there's no appreciation. Like there's no like,
Yes. And you don't realize it until you put yourself in a position where you have to limit yourself.
Yeah.
When you go on a diet, like a real strict diet, I try to do it once a year, partially to lean out, cut some fat off my body.
Yeah.
But also to regain appreciation for a lot of the foods that I abuse. Like if I eat you get to the point where you're eating pizza all the time, you're eating burgers and fries all the time, and you're eating this stuff that does taste delicious. It does taste delicious, but you're not even enjoying it anymore because you eat it so much. And so I go on this super lean, or even like sauces, ketchup and ranch and barbecue sauce, A1 sauce. That adds so much flavor to all your food, but you eat it so much you forget that's what's making it all taste so good and why you enjoyed it so much. And so I like to go on a diet where it's very lean, very clean, and I just eat, I'll eat chicken, but it's just plain chicken. I'll season it, but it's plain chicken, no sauces. I'm eating broccoli. I'm eating rice. I'm eating it just very, very, very plain, and I do it for about 2 months. And it gets me craving, I do 90% or leaner meats too. And so it gets me craving that 80-20 beef. It gets me craving that ribeye with a bunch of fat on it. Because I remember as a kid, I never ate steaks.
Okay.
So I always craved them. Loved like a good ribeye or good T-bone.
Yeah.
Loved them. But I only got them once every 6 months. My family just never bought them and cooked them. And then as I got older and I was starting to make some more money, there was a point in my life where I was eating ribeyes all the time. And then I wasn't enjoying them as much.
Yeah.
And I realized if you take that away where you don't get it all the time, and then you just have it as a special occasion thing, you're going to enjoy it so much more.
So when you go on that whole that fasting or the diet and not having flavor by sauces and all that stuff, do you notice the meals, what is your trigger about turning back? Is there a trigger point? Meaning, so if I'm doing something, I notice maybe 3 weeks in, I'm I reach this point of this really hard resistance that I'm I'm going to probably have the worst day ever if I go this route, and it'd be so much easier just to break this now. I've done far enough. It's 3 weeks. Cool. I've done more than whoever.
Mm-hmm. I like to make myself suffer for sure.
Okay. So what's the point of what's a trigger that really makes it difficult? Because at a certain point it's easy, right? Or no? Or is it always hard? Every single day?
It's actually it's easier every year now.
Okay.
Because I'm starting to get used to it. More and more, I'm okay, here's the time. I do it because it also creates appreciation for food.
Sure.
But yeah, I go my first month. I used to tell myself January 1st is when I'm going to start it, and I'm going to do it all the way to the end of February, and that's going to be my dieting season. Now I realize that it takes me 2 weeks to get into it, into the groove of it. Because I'm still trying to figure out what meals and everything I want.
Okay.
So now I start mid-December. And I know that at Christmas, people are going to have cookies and I'm probably going to eat one or two and I'm okay with that. But I'm trying to just dial in those first couple weeks in December. And then by the time January hits, I'm to the T, ready to hit my diet good. And so then I can do it. And yeah, a month in, I'm suffering. I'm hating it. I'm man, I want some food. I want a pizza. I want some hot wings.
Yeah.
I want, and I'm craving a good, I love Western burgers.
Okay.
So a burger with fried onion rings and barbecue sauce.
Yeah, okay.
And, I love that. It's so good. But I force myself to really suffer so I can really appreciate it whenever I come back to it. But it also helps me because it's not a sustainable life. I also cut out drinking during this time.
Okay.
So it just makes me appreciate everything in my life again, and it helps me get my diet back in check. Because as the year goes on, I get back into the bad eating habits and eating junk food and doing things I shouldn't be doing. I try to do it with caffeine too. I try to just no caffeine at all, just make myself suffer. I haven't done that in a while because caffeine is
yeah.
I love caffeine. That's one of my things, but it's also why I'm that's why you got to do it. That's why you got to cut the caffeine out because you got to make yourself suffer and appreciate when you do have the caffeine.
Yeah, my wife Julia is doing that journey right now.
No caffeine?
She's been going off of no caffeine, and I think...
How long?
So that's what's tricky because, and this is something I've learned from her as we kind of been going on doing things together in general, the whole idea of like, if you're going to do it, don't talk about it, just do it.
Yeah.
Because it really kind of
all that way.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, I'm definitely that way.
Yeah. So I don't really know because she wasn't really telling me that necessarily she was doing it completely. I noticed that she would make me a different batch of coffee, or like she would not have some, like if I would make coffee, she would not have that coffee. And so sometimes we'll have different kinds. So like we'll have like a French press and we'll get like this and we'll get that and we'll try like A, B, like different, if she got 2 different styles of beans, whatever. But I noticed it was different, and I was like, she's like, well, I'm just limiting a little bit. I'm just kind of tapering down. Then I noticed like 2-3 weeks ago, she was making a French press, and it smelled totally different. And it was like this stuff called tocino, and it's like chicory, and it's like all these different herbs that make up like a kind of like a coffee, but it's not.
It's like decaf.
Yeah, but it makes this drink that's kind of like coffee, but like literally no caffeine.
Wow.
None of that. So I noticed that for about 2 weeks, but I don't know how long she's on that whole journey. And that's like,
Caffeine's one of the things that you have to taper down too, because you build a tolerance up to it.
right. And that scares me.
Keep craving more and craving more and more. That's a big reason. I learned that a long time ago. I do the same thing. I taper back.
Yeah.
If I notice myself, I just enjoy caffeine. I
Sure.
enjoy being productive, and I enjoy the little bit of extra energy I get from it. And
Yeah.
It wakes me up. My eyes are a little wider, and I'm more like into the conversation when I'm talking with someone.
Right.
And I've learned that combining it with a good workout has also helped me out a lot. It gets my blood in my body just starts flowing to my brain
Sure.
better, and I'm like this morning before you came.
Yeah.
Because I couldn't make it to the gym. This is actually my week off too, so I'm like trying to stay out because I own a gym, right? So I'm trying to stay out of the gym.
So it's your week off from working out or a week off from the gym?
Both.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I still need. Well, I mean, working out, like as in like going into the gym and actually getting a full workout in.
Sure.
But this morning I'm like, I need to get up and go for a walk. So I just went and did laps around my driveway, and I just did just 20 minutes of it just to get some blood flowing, because I knew it loosens up my body.
Sure.
I feel better. I start thinking better. I put an audiobook in, so it gets my brain thinking like on some things that I want to do in life, and it just gets me flowing for the day. And a little bit of caffeine helps with it too.
Well, I think why it's scary to me is because, so I definitely can give up things and I can definitely limit things, but then I kind of have this category of like, but I gotta have this. There's like this one thing.
That's caffeine.
Yeah.
I'm kind of the same way.
Yeah. And it's weird because like Julia looked at me when we were 2.5 years on the journey of building Leatherwood, like creating this whole concept. There was a lot of problems we were encountering, everything from, how do we, because I was just, when she had jumped on full time to start doing construction, we had to make the decision, well, she was dropping that income from doing another position somewhere. She was going to do that. My income, because of changing my hours to help on the nights and weekends for that, was going to drop. And there was a lot of different things we were going through about like, how do we even make the money flow on this? How we do these different pieces. So I made the decision, like, I need to have more mental clarity. So I need to give up a few things that makes me feel good so I can think. Mm-hmm. And one of those things was I started doing cold showers. Mm-hmm. But it freaked me out. Like it freaked me out so much because I'm like, one thing I loved was no matter how bad I was thinking the day was going to be, I loved a hot shower. Mm-hmm. I love staying in the hot shower. Sometimes I'll even have a podcast or it's just some music playing in there, and it'll just be like my time or whatever.
I completely understand that.
Okay.
Completely understand that.
So it was that choice. I was listening to something and it said basically, if you want certain things in life, you can attain them, but you need to see what price you're going to give, and you actually got to make that thing. You're actually trading for it. Mm-hmm. So I had this thought that I'm like, okay, there's a lot of fear I'm coming up on here. There's a lot of different pieces that I'm terrified that we're doing. And the clarity was I need to go towards the fear. And that was the weirdest thing ever. So
it is a crazy thing, right?
Yeah.
Because you're naturally, it's that flight thing where you want to go away from
Absolutely.
it. But is that something you learned? Or like, what made you want to pull to it? Because so many people don't realize that they need to go to the fear, like go pull towards it.
So being around good people helped cultivate that. Mm-hmm. Parents helped cultivate that a little bit. definitely, I think also having a faith background cultivated that, because there's different pieces that really have to do with fear and understanding that what you might be afraid of is actually not the result. It's not having faith that something better could happen. You're just looking at the worst. So I think there's several different elements to that. But what's really weird about that is when you do go towards the fear, you actually can face things about yourself that you generally just hide away in the box. And
Even try to hide from yourself. That
for sure,
problem.
for sure. So it was like a really odd moment when I was like, okay, this is really terrifying. So I'm going to give up one of the biggest things that I feel like is my time, like a hot shower, kind of be away from everything, early morning, whatever it is. And I'm going to turn on the water cold, not have any hot shower.
0% of the shower's hot.
0% of the shower was hot.
Yeah.
And it was so weird because then it also got me. Have you ever heard of Wim Hof? Okay, there's this guy named Wim Hof. I don't know his first name, but he big pioneer on breathing technique.
Will you look that up, Ariel? Could you throw that up over there?
So he's like, he became famous, I think, when he started teaching people how to like hike in the snow with like only their underwear on. Like something
I think I have heard of this guy.
Something ridiculous.
I have wanted to try the cold bath stuff.
Okay.
It's something I've really been wanting to try. And I have heard that there's something, I don't know what it is, just because I don't think I'm just not, I think me personally, before I start learning it, I'll make sure I buy the cold bath tub.
Sure.
And like the ice bathtub.
Right.
And then I'll get it and then I'll just start doing it and then I'll start learning along the way.
Yeah.
But I think there's something about like shocking your body that really, really cold.
Yeah.
And then going and getting a workout in.
Yeah.
It does something to your body.
So what's interesting, okay, yeah, so there he is.
Do you know the first name of him?
He's in a little barrel that time. That's
Wim Hof
cool.
method. Yeah, that's me personally. I think I would get an ice bath like that.
Okay.
There's some crazy ones that have all this stuff going on. This one's like I don't know about this one in particular, but I have seen one that looks like a barrel.
Right.
And it just has a lid on it and it stays cold.
Yeah.
And so you can put ice in it and it's just like an igloo.
Sure.
Or like a cooler.
Sure.
That you can keep all this ice in and you can keep it outside. It'll stay really, really cold. And then you just have to change the water every so often.
So I heard about this kind of breathing technique and a ways back. And then I realized basically what he was talking about is a lot of people do shallow breathing throughout the day, tons of shallow breathing. So your body, strength-wise and functionality, oxygen is a big thing. Oh, wow, that's a big surprise, right? But we actually don't have a lot of oxygen in our daily consumption because we do shallow breathing. Well, he's talking about doing a lot of deep breathing technique and how that actually detoxifies your body, but it also allows you to undergo more extreme circumstances and for your body to use those extremes to heal itself because it realizes, oh, this is extremely cold. We could die here. So we need to get rid of everything that possibly could be a hindrance if this is going to be a long-term situation. Yes. Your body doesn't know that. So as the journey kind of went on, I heard about that. Tim Ferriss talked about like cold exposure. I'd heard about that, different things. But always the hang up, I realized the more I would learn about certain things, the better I would get at making excuses of why I couldn't implement.
Tim Ferriss a 4-hour work week guy?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Thought so.
Okay, yeah. So the more I would learn these little things or hear things, I would also get really crafty on how I would make excuses of why I couldn't do them. Mm-hmm. So you mentioned the barrel or mentioned the certain tub or whatever. I was thinking, well, I'm not in good shape, so it's not as cool to do like a cold shower. There's no point. Or I don't have the right tub, so therefore, okay, I'll put that off. But this whole thing for me was like, because it's not the right time, because it's not the sexiest thing to do, and because it's the most terrifying thing to do, that means I need to do it now, and I need to start doing it. Mm-hmm. So anyway, I would do the Wim Hof technique, and then when you actually walk into the cold water, it was so crazy because really the biggest thing you have to handle, it was like a life lesson. The biggest thing you have to deal with that is about 30 to 40 seconds of fear because it's like winter outside and you're like thinking, oh, I need a hot shower, I'm going to get pneumonia, or it's like whatever the case is. After you deal with that fear and you're just breathing, you actually become extremely happy about the day or thinking about good things after that or thinking about, oh, that hot coffee is going to be great. and you start having appreciation or gratitude for other things other than having that really comfortable hot shower, and then thinking like, oh man, everything else about my day is going to really suck right now. Then after this, it's like everything about my day is so much better because one, I've kind of conquered a fear early on. But that was, that's just kind of giving
You're
you
proud of yourself too for doing something that you're like
sure
fearful of.
Yeah.
I did the cold showers for a while too.
Yeah.
And it's
Okay. So you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, and I never thought about doing the breathing technique in it. I have heard it. Because
Okay.
a lot of jiu-jitsu guys talk about it.
Okay, yeah.
A lot of guys in jiu-jitsu talk about how doing the breathing technique in the ice baths and in jiu-jitsu have really helped them a lot.
Yeah.
And I haven't really got big into it just because it was another realm for me to explore and learn on.
Sure.
And at the time when I was learning on it, I think it was like right when I bought the gym. So I had a lot of other stuff going on. And it's kind of like one of those things, and I'm glad we're talking about it now because it kind of brings it back up into my memory of, hey, I want to try this out.
So I'm writing this down because I don't want to forget this, because I did want to ask you about that, because I got to hear you talk at that event, and there was a lot of things I wanted to ask you about, so I didn't want to forget. But yeah, okay.
Sure. And yeah, so I just started doing the cold shower thing. It was another challenge for myself.
Okay.
See if I could do it.
Yeah.
And I like the hardest part is for me is like when you're getting in and your body's warm. Even if you're cold getting in, your body's still warm.
Oh, sure.
And so you get in and that cold water is hitting you and you get used to it. But then, I try to make a point. You got to I make a point just to stand there and like the under your armpits are kind of warm. And there's certain points of you that are warm and you want to keep them warm when you're in there.
Right.
But you got to make yourself go through the pain.
Yes.
Or like, it's not pain, but it's uncomfort.
Yeah.
You got to make yourself go through it. And yeah, when I get out, I feel so much better.
Yeah.
And my days after a cold shower are so much better.
Yeah.
And I never really took the time to analyze why. I do it a lot. Maybe just, one, it's just a challenge to see if I can do it. Two, I think it helps just wake me up in the morning. On like early mornings or like maybe weeks that I just had long weeks and I'm tired and I'm grinding through. The last week, I was going to take last week off. Last week was
From the gym?
From the gym.
Okay.
Yeah, I needed a mental break. Like I was mentally just exhausted because I had the gym and I had my rental properties and I've had a lot of podcasts, and I start to notice I can handle everything else.
And I'm sorry, by the way, I got you guys up early.
Oh no.
Okay.
Actually, I prefer this.
Good. Okay.
We talked about it last night. Sure, getting up early can be unfortunate, but I get to enjoy the day now.
Yeah. Okay.
Because if I had nothing going on and I had the week off, I'd be like, I need to sleep in.
Well, I just felt bad because I was like, maybe I said too early. Cause I was just thinking like, okay. So
I would do 6 a.m. if you want to. I would do midnight if you're like, or 3 a.m. There's no time I would not do a podcast.
It's so fun. Okay.
I love the podcast. This right now, the podcast has top priority in my life.
Yeah. Okay.
Over everything. The gym is my baby.
Yeah.
I'll do anything to keep that baby alive and whatever it needs. But the gym runs itself.
Yeah. Okay.
Essentially. I mean, I still got to go and do things. It's not 100% running itself, but it's at a point now where it's got some good legs on it.
Right.
It's standing. This is my baby now. This is what I'm really passionate about right now. But last week, I was going to take a week off from last week because I was just so mentally drained. And I know when I start noticing it when I have guests on the podcast and I can't talk. I can talk, but like it's like I have brain fog.
Yeah.
And I'm not into the conversation.
Sure.
And there was a couple guests that came on, my attorney, Adam Grayson, and James Johnson. They both came on my podcast. Two awesome people. James was the first time I ever met him.
Okay.
But he brought this energy.
Yeah.
That was just so much. I loved it. I love this dude's energy. It's a guy you want to be around all the time because you'll never be in a bad mood, I feel like. Because he
I
brings
love
energy
people
to
like
it.
that. Seriously.
I don't think he would even, like if you were down, I don't think he would allow it to happen. Like he would just make you go up. And then Adam, my attorney, he's very similar guy, like a very friendly guy. You can see him anywhere. And I feel like I didn't bring my A game.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
And so I was just beating on. I was like, damn it, Ryan, you need some time off. You need to take some time off to reset your brain and just relax. And I took half a day Wednesday and then Thursday off. And coming over to your place
Sure.
really helped me because it was a time for me to relax, smoke a cigar, drink
Sure.
some bourbon. I mean, I really enjoyed it.
So I'm
It was part of my
curious.
reset.
I'm curious, the brain or the feeling that you need to take off, what mechanic generally dictates that? When you're talking about the gym, is it like staffing? Is that the drain? Is that what is the, I'm just curious, what is the drain on that?
And I hope nobody.
Because I'm asking selfishly because I encounter things that either fuel me about what we do at Leatherwood, or there's things that like mechanics that I just like get bogged down by doing. Mm-hmm. So I'm just curious, what is that for you on that?
It is, a gym can be very draining because you're the level of motivation. You are the demeanor of the whole place. Like you're the atmosphere. Okay. Right. And so I will not go into my facility in a bad mood. If I go into my facility in a bad mood, I'm pissed off at myself. Gotcha. For bringing that energy in. Okay. I want to bring the energy to the gym. I want to bring the motivation to the gym. I want to be the highlight of people's days. Okay. I want anyone that's having a bad day to be able to come to my facility and feel great. But a lot of people don't realize that I'm juggling a lot of different things whenever I'm coming in there. And so I'm trying to keep every single member that comes in there happy. And it can be draining whenever people are coming up to me about little things that aren't particularly something that I need to really handle. The lady in my office, she can handle it. Like she can handle, like if there's a machine that needs a little attention, or maybe something needs cleaned, or maybe the wipes are out. Sure. Go to her. Talk to her about it. And there's sometimes she comes to me in the same instance. Like it sucks. It's one of the things I'm like, come on, people, you got to get this figured out. They'll clog a toilet up. Yeah. And it just needs plunging. Sure. They don't want to plunge it. Sure. So they just keep flushing it, and then it either overflows, or they come out to me and they're like, hey, the toilet's broke. And all I got to do is go in there with the plunger and plunge it. Right. Okay. And that stuff can be really draining if you got on days nothing else is going on. Sure. No big deal. But it's like once a year it happens. Yeah. And if those things meet at the same time where everything else is weighing down on me, plus those things, that's when it happens. Okay. And I realized that was coming to a T. Those crossroads were coming together. And I was like, I need to take some time off. Yeah, yeah. Okay, that makes sense. But last week, I didn't even get to hit my break till Wednesday. Mm-hmm. And so it was very late, and I was still dealing with other things. So like even this week, like I had some bathroom problems last week. People flushing things they shouldn't be flushing down the toilet. Gotcha, sure. Clogs up the lines. Yeah. So even this week I had to go in and deal with it at the beginning of the week. Luckily I was able to get a plumber in there that could handle it properly. And I was like, hey, you got this under control? Because if you do, I'm not going in. Yeah. Like there's no reason for me to be there if you guys got this under control. So that's the importance of creating a good system. Yeah, absolutely. To me is like making sure you have someone in there that understands how to run things. Make sure you have plenty of money coming in properly, because in a business, that's where a lot of added stress I feel like comes in. Is not being properly planned and not like having to have your ducks in line. Because when things start to fall apart, if you're the one handling everything, that's when it's tough. Well, it makes a lot of sense you mentioned that, because that's something also that like I'm literally in the journey of right now, like understanding, like I had to realize like I suck at delegation. Mm-hmm. I really do. And just because I want everything to feel a certain way doesn't mean that I'm the best person to keep that feeling this certain way. Mm-hmm. And are you a big do it yourself? Like you want to do it, have control over it? Yeah, in some degrees, yeah, for sure. There's like other. You don't like the delegation side of it. Like maybe you want, I need to do this because I. So if I'm being fully honest, I love the idea of delegation. Mm-hmm. I love the idea of that, but I have, I guess in general, a certain aesthetic of outcome or a certain feel I want to have achieved. Mm-hmm. And one, I guess because I realize I'm bad at this, either I'm bad at wanting to bog someone else down with how do I relay that, mm-hmm. or bad at just being able to recognize who's a good talent or team to have around. Mm-hmm. There's this individual that I was just talking with a couple weeks ago, and he's actually a fantastic guy, but I haven't really had much interaction with him, but I've just always kind of, like you said, that one gentleman that was on your podcast, there's that energy and you want to be around it, right? Mm-hmm. Well, I realized about him, and he's younger than me. He's doing some different things, but what I realized about him, I was like, there's something that really is interesting about that.
And I actually asked him about, we have an event coming up on May 20th. And I asked him, I was like, hey, could you possibly help me like do a element on this event? And I loved his first thing. And this is what made me completely realize I suck at delegation and I need to learn that. His first response was, give me a few more details because I want to see who I can pull in around me to make that a success, to make that role a success. And I realized as soon as he said, I need to see who I can pull in around me, it was a huge moment of realization that, wow, I need to get better at understanding who I need, because some people are dying to contribute, but I'm not giving them an avenue to contribute because I'm not even thinking that way.
Yeah. I'm the same way. I'm kind of in the very same boat. I'm actively seeking,
Yeah.
like just people to be around me, not just for my business, but
Sure.
in my life for growth. Super hard to do it. And it's, I even talked about it at the collective event. My big thing is I don't want anyone to think that I'm wasting their time. Respect's a big thing for me.
Yeah, sure.
So I want to make sure that if they're around me in my life, that I'm also giving them value, not just them giving me value. Yeah. So when I think about how I'm trying to I want to make sure that, hey, whenever I'm asking you for the value that you're bringing to the table, what can I offer to you? I never want someone to work for free for me. I never want someone to be putting in a bunch of work for me, and then here I am just being selfish and taking a bunch from it.
Yeah. No, but what's interesting too is that this is really fueling for me because one, like Ryan, like being around you just at that event, but also hearing about you from Kate and being able to just cross paths a little bit, it's really invigorating and exciting for me because I'm like, okay, this is, it's just inspiring what you're doing, what you put together, and then your outlook on life too. Cause it's hilarious. When we were getting done at that event, we were talking, I want to say if only felt like 30 minutes, it only felt actually to me like 5 minutes, but I think we're actually there for an hour after the event, something like that.
Yeah,
like
we were there for a while talking.
Right. But
it's like one of those things where it was like, I just knew it was getting late, and I'm like, we both were probably like, we got to get out of here.
Sure. Yeah. But
yeah, it was like,
I loved it, and I loved the energy from it. And I even loved how, because I said earlier that I realized the more I'll pick up from really interesting individuals, either by way of books or hearing them talk, is also I'll get better at making excuses of why I can't act on it right now. Mm-hmm. And when you said, oh, we need to do the podcast sometime, my first thing was like, oh yeah, this week's crazy, but we'll figure out some dates. Mm-hmm. But I loved how you were like, you grabbed your phone, you're like, well, let's just do the phone right now. And that was something scary. Like, I don't want to go in that cold shower. I was like, oh my gosh, like this is terrifying. Yeah. Because I don't even know exactly, when would be the perfect time. Mm-hmm. But I loved how you're like, hey,
this is the perfect time.
Yeah. You're like, hey, there's
right
no worry to it at all. Like, what time? Like, we can just make this work right now. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, yeah, I love that. And it really got me thinking forward again about, hey, there's no need to delay certain things because we just put too much thought into certain things.
Yeah.
And I just love that action. You're like, hey, let's just, no problem. Thursday? What time?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, going out and seeking opportunity all the time.
Yeah.
That's where opportunity comes. Like, you got to actively seek it and take chances and go for things. Drew McCluskey came on the podcast yesterday. You remember Drew from the collective meeting?
Yeah.
Awesome dude.
Yeah.
That dude is so cool. The fact that, I don't know, do you know him very well?
So I just met him at that event.
You definitely want to get to know him more.
Yeah, okay.
He is such a cool dude.
I felt like that when he was talking.
He's very young man. I think he's 24. He is 24.
Really? Okay, yeah.
But just so smart, so talented. Definitely going to go some places. And he learned very young. Somehow, some way, he had the right things in place for him and he's done the work. Like we talked about it on the podcast. He's read like 180 books or something like that, or consumed them in audiobooks or something like that. Okay. And he has education in areas that, at least in like the growth of yourself, where you want to go, like people that are wanting to just grow personally, which is exactly where I'm at. For me, I was like, oh, he was so inspiring to me because I'm like, oh, okay, I've been making excuses not to read all these books that I have. I buy the books, but I make excuses for why I don't want to read them.
Sure.
And so now I'm like, he was like, after he left, like mentally, I'm like, I got to step up my game. And it's not jealousy. It's inspiring to me.
Yeah.
Like it's motivating to me. I love that kind of stuff. And I check myself.
Yeah.
I'm like, dude, what do you like? I just loved having him on the podcast. He's a very cool dude. So if you get the opportunity to talk to him, I would definitely recommend just maybe chatting him up some more.
Well, I felt like that when we were connecting. I felt like, okay, this guy's definitely not an oversell. And I'm interested in how he's talking, and it's like his approach and stuff. Like I loved it. And he put me at ease too. Like some people that are very compelling individuals, even though they're compelling and they're inspiring, they make me feel freaked out. Like I'm just like, oh man, I'm just like way too high energy and I can't really be at ease around them. But he was just like really calm. Like, yeah, it's a lot of fun what we're doing. Like I'm doing this and that.
Yeah.
And
he's very skilled. His communication's great.
Yeah.
That was something I talked to him about too. I'm like, yeah, I need to up my communication skills. Like I need to just learn how to conversate better.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm a podcaster.
Sure.
I got to learn how to do it. And I learn every time I do it.
Sure.
But I know there's areas that I lack. And so like part of me is like now I've been looking into some more books that are going to help me communicate better and finishing some of the books that I haven't finished. Like I've started that have helped me and I just like, okay, Ryan, you need to make time.
Yeah.
You need to put it in as a priority, even if it's, half an hour a day. Fit it into your workouts, fit it into your walk, fit it somewhere throughout your day when you're doing something. Find a way
that
to get
whole
more involved with it.
Books have always been a hard thing for me because patience and like delayed gratification, things like that have been very difficult. And so I heard this quote. Are you familiar with Ty Lopez? Okay.
I think so.
If you're not, you should be. He's really interesting individual to understand because he really kind of has a great way of deconstruction of like a very complex concept and just deconstructing it and allowing you to get a bite-sized piece out of it that's relevant to application.
Ty Lopez?
Yeah. So he had this quote about books.
Is he local or is he's
No. He's a significant like figure on just kind of, I guess, more on the real estate personal development side, I think, of the equation.
TAI, actually.
Okay, yeah.
Okay.
So I totally told you, yeah. So, but anyway, he had this quote about books, and he said, books you need to consider more as old friends and not one-time events. And that quote it was like a light bulb that went off because I was like, always had anxiety about looking at books. I'm like, I don't have the patience to like do this every day or to do this big of a book or this small of a book. Or it would also freak me out that I would always hear like successful people like read like tons. I'm like, man, I would love to be successful, but I'll never get there because I don't like reading that much. I don't know how to read that much. Okay.
Same.
So his whole concept blew me away because he was basically saying, if you need help in an area, who you consulting? So imagine, like Rich Dad Poor Dad, I need help with real estate or I need help with looking at cash flow or whatever.
Financial education.
Yeah. I'm going to consult Robert. Okay. Or I'm going to consult Tim if I'm looking at, deconstructing on like fat or like, how to lose, a certain amount of like body composition I'm not happy with.
Yeah.
Maybe I don't have to read the whole book. Let's just go into a chapter or two, get that away. But then also I would always have this thing where, I finished the book. I've already read that, so I already know everything. You don't. When you go back to a book, sometimes you'll get so many things.
Every time I've reread a book, I've learned something new.
Yes.
For the first time. And I'm like, how did I miss that?
Yeah.
I didn't even realize that the first time.
Yeah. So that quote allowed me to not have as much anxiety about books. And I just realized, hey, there's no concern. Just go after, if it's something you need help with or something you're looking at, dive into that, come out of it if you don't need it anymore.
Yeah.
And then come back to it.
I think books are one of the most important things for growth in your life. Like they're in there as one of the top most important things. I don't know if it's the most important thing, but it's definitely in there. And Drew said it on the podcast yesterday. It is, if you want to get knowledge, a lot of people seek mentors or someone that has already done what they're wanting to do. And so they try to reach out to them. These books, it's like going to Robert Kiyosaki. You can get his mentorship for $20. You buy the book,
right?
And he's condensed his past 20 years of knowledge as best as he could and rewrote the book multiple times to reconstruct it in a better way, or maybe things have changed. They reconstruct it and they put it into a readable, condensed book that takes you maybe 6 hours to read.
Right.
So you can get this mentorship for $20, or you can try to go pay thousands of dollars to go meet him and go to conventions and only get an hour's worth of his talk that you might get one piece of information out of. Or for $20, you can read his book, and you can find a book on anything.
Right.
On anything. And so
it's just funny because that's not the easy approach.
No, you,
like, I
you
wish
wanna,
I could.
You want to
Yeah.
find somebody that's going to tell you, this is how it's done. This is how it's done.
Right.
You know, and you want someone to basically hold your hand. And I love helping people, but I don't think,
Like doing it for them.
I don't think that helps anybody.
No, it
I have a gentleman that wanted to get in real estate, and he wanted me to go look at his house. He wanted me to like tell him like if the numbers were good.
Sure.
He wanted me to tell him everything about it. And I'm like, dude, why don't you read a couple of these books? Like you need to read a couple of these books so you understand it.
Right.
Like I'm not going to go to all these properties for you and look
Right.
at them and assess them for you. Like I have things in my life I need to do too.
Right.
Plus you're not even learning.
Right.
You know, you can't come to me every time you have a problem with it. You got to figure out a way to learn on it. And there's plenty of information out there.
Right.
So, and I like to help people that are trying, but I don't like to help people that aren't willing to even just do anything on their own.
Yeah.
You know, they got to have some incentive on their own to do it.
Sure.
And that's why I love making content, because I just put the content out.
Yeah.
And then whoever's searching for it, I hope that I can reach them in some way and give them some value.
Well, that's inspiring. Also, like a huge thing that was like, oh, like I love when we were talking. I felt that come off. Like
Cool.
I was like, it's inspiring to me because again, I'm not trying to do people's work for them or whatever, but I do want to enrich people's lives. And also, I love having that element of inspiring or creating like just something that's exciting for somebody. Like that was that whole thing why Julie and I put that together, is we wanted to tell a story and create some excitement or create something for people that they wouldn't expect.
Yeah.
And but again, just like with the whole book thing, like you can't read a book for somebody because you don't know, they gotta do some of those steps because it's,
Yeah, we all interpret it differently, and
absolutely.
I can't break it down the way they broke it down.
Right. And you'll apply things differently that you hear from Rich Dad Poor Dad or from 7 Habits, whatever, than I will. And that's what's so neat too, because then you're formulating like problem solving. And then when we come together and talk, then I'm like, oh, I totally didn't even get any of that from that book.
I love that part of it.
Bringing
That's
to the table.
Whenever I find someone that has read a book that I've read,
Yeah.
that I can sit and discuss about,
Yeah.
that's where I love it, because you're right. There's so much growth right there,
Yes.
because now you get two interpretations, and you get to bring those two minds together, and you get to share how each one interpreted it.
So I'm just curious, what was your last book, or what book are you trying to read now? Like what?
After Drew came on,
Yeah.
I ordered 6 books yesterday.
Okay.
After Drew, because Drew's read so many,
Yeah.
and I was like, I need some recommendations.
Okay.
He recommended one to me called The Gogiver, and I want to. That's the one on my list that I'm like, I'm going to get that.
I don't think I've heard of that one. I'm going to write that down.
So Gogiver is basic. I think from what I interpreted, it's about doing things. Kind of teaches you about doing things for other people. Not. I think it kind of teaches you like to do good things for other people, not in expectation that they're going to give you something, but to do things for other people, and you realize that other good things come to you that way.
Yeah.
Like not, I don't know. I want to read it because I think it kind of follows along with the route that I'm going in life, because I'm not just following money. Like I'm not just chasing money. I view money as an important part of my journey, because it's how I'm going to fund my journey.
Sure.
But I want to impact people's lives. I want to make the world a better place, and I want to, I just want to, I want to be impactful while I'm here, and I think it's all part of it. But I want to learn more about how to be impactful. I think so. I make the content, and I try to give back in certain ways. But if there's a book that I can read that maybe could help me be a more impactful person,
Yeah.
I'm going to try to. So the Go-Giver is like, I think it's about just like wanting to do things. Like I think it just maybe helps you change your mindset on like why maybe it's more important
Yeah.
to do things. I don't know. I want to read it and just see what it's about.
No, I love
But
that.
He said it's one of his favorite books, and I like the way he thinks. I like the way he thinks. I think like it's hard to talk about a business or talk about a path you're going down that has to do with money because everybody wants to focus on the money.
Sure.
And it's like, it's not just about the money.
Right.
Like the podcast here, like I try to get people to subscribe, and I tell them like once I get to 1,000 subscribers, I can start getting paid off of ad revenue and stuff. And they just look at it as I want to get paid.
Right.
But I want to get paid so I can reinvest, so I can pay an editor, so I can, I can pay someone to make thumbnails, so I can pay people, and I can, maybe I could fly someone out from Florida, fly them into Missouri, have them come here, and get some more interesting people on too.
Right.
I want to be able to do things like that that can't be done if I don't have any money.
Yeah.
So,
well, I think that's a trap too. Like with just society in general, they assume money is the success part, but you have to figure out what do you actually want. Because even if you had a bunch of money, you sometimes see people that are not used to having that. Their lives are awful.
Yeah.
Because they don't actually know what they would do with it. So it's like having a bunch of fuel. Like, great, I have a bunch of fuel. It can blow up my whole house if it catches fire. But what's the mean? That's,
take me to the moon if I put it in a spaceship.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and I want to use the money to be able to grow my podcast,
right,
and to grow my businesses, and and just make my life better.
Because it impacts other people, like, and you see like different things that you want to do with it.
Yeah,
I'm intrigued by the title too, because I realized for like myself, when things are like bad, the mechanic of giving actually changes my head. And I actually find better ways to solve a problem if I'm in that state of giving. Mm-hmm. So it's bizarre. I don't know, like...
He talked about the opportunities that come just from learning to give without wanting to receive.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
So,
yeah.
I don't know. I don't know nothing. He briefly talked on it, and it just really sparked my interest. I'm like, yeah, I'm going to buy it. Let's see what happens. I bought some other ones. I don't remember... I don't remember exact names of them, but yeah, I just, I'm looking to grow myself in a lot of different ways, not just financially, but also just mentally as a better person.
Yeah.
Maybe help me like with my self-esteem. There's one that, it's something about like how you talk to yourself mentally, basically. And I think it's just basically supposed to help yourself like with mental confidence, because as a young boy, I didn't have a high self-esteem.
Yeah.
I when somebody said something that downed me, I took it to heart, and I would believe them. And I know that's not healthy. I know that's not a healthy way to think at all.
But yeah.
And so as a young kid, I wish I had a book that would have helped me with it, or I wish I had a class in school that teaches you about it, because especially in public school, you get just a mix of all kinds of kids, and they're saying stuff, and they're saying stuff just out of hatred, or just they don't even know what they're saying maybe. And like there's some people that maybe said something to me that maybe changed the way I thought, but they don't even know they said it. Mm-hmm. It's just off the top of their head, and they don't even realize that they ever said it to me. And I'm sure I've done that to other people too.
Yeah,
I probably impacted some people in a negative way. And I think I started to realize that as I got older, and I was like, I don't want to be that person that affects someone in a negative way.
Well, speaking of like traps and like just society in general, it's funny that how you talk about talking words. Like we're taught that talk's cheap, but it's funny that I've like more on my journey. I've realized a lot of these common themes are actually the exact opposite, and talk is like extremely expensive. Mm-hmm. Like even the biblical term of like life and death in the power of your tongue, or like etymology of like author is authority. And authority comes out of authorship. Mm-hmm. So it's bizarre if you think about the actual significance and weight that actually words hold and how that translates to people's lives. Mm-hmm. Once I started just barely kind of getting that concept, I realized like, oh, so it makes sense then if I have something, then I'm not going to share that. I need to work on that on myself. Or it makes sense to, if I have that opportunity to be around someone like you, or being around someone that is doing things, I need to tell you, hey, Ryan, I appreciate you doing this. Because those words really matter, and those should not be held in. That's so you need to give that life, and you need to be watchful about just not like giving people death based off of being negative.
I agree. I was the same way. I never realized that people needed that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I like the words of affirmation or anything.
But think that's, we're taught that that's stupid.
Yeah.
Like that doesn't make any sense.
Especially as a man.
Yeah.
Especially as a man.
Absolutely.
And so I think that's a big part on the podcast where I talk about that too.
Right.
To be more vocal on stuff like that.
But you think about, how significant are words in a courtroom? And those are grown men. Mm-hmm. But one word can put you in prison. Mm-hmm. One word can change an entire outcome of a whole 30-year span.
Yeah.
So words really matter. Like it's, but yeah, just in everyday culture, it's like, oh no, that's not that big of a deal. Just throw it out there.
My attorney came on and he talked about that. He talked about in the last few years of his college career, it's very interesting the way they do it. And I can't remember exactly how it is, but basically it's at any point I think you can just get voted out by the class. And so I remember he said that he was in one of his classes and the teacher called on him and the guy didn't know the answer. And the kids in the classroom were able to say, do you guys think this is fair that Timmy over here didn't learn this today? Should we keep him in the class or get rid of him? And everybody's like, get him out. And then he was just done. He couldn't come back.
Wow.
And there was I think you had to retain an A the whole class. Like you had to keep up to a certain thing or you're out. Mm-hmm. And it was just a whole nother, you were held to such a high level.
Sure.
I don't know. I don't think I could ever be an attorney.
It impresses upon me too that details matter in those situations, but also in life in general. We think that it doesn't, but even for you, details matter. Like it's because I see that clearly. Like you put a lot of time, all around this room. You could have easily just thrown a box in here, thrown a couple of karaoke mics, and everything about this is those details, those more significant than just the overall thing.
I try to share
because I love it. There's stuff.
I try to share my personality.
Yeah,
a little bit in it, and you can kind of see the chaos in my personality. But it's I want to create a background for when people are watching the podcast.
Yeah,
maybe during conversations that kind of just maybe even drag out, or maybe people that are just watching the podcast for. Some of them go for 2.5 hours. Mm-hmm. So people that are watching them podcasts, maybe they can just kind of look around and it's an entertaining atmosphere for them to be in too while they're sitting there watching.
Yeah.
I watch it's on YouTube. It's called Lo-Fi Girl.
Okay.
And it's just lo-fi hip hop, just relaxing music. And it's almost a still image. I think she writes I think it's just a journal and she's writing in her journal or maybe doing homework. And then there's a cat tail that's kind of swinging.
Yeah, yeah.
Maybe a light flickering in the background.
Okay.
But there's so much detail.
Yes.
It looks simple. To the naked eye, you would think it's a normal picture. And it's just lo-fi music. There's no words to it, nothing like that. It's just all instrumental. But I love it because you can look around and you can just find little details in it and things that you never notice. And I like that about it. And that's kind of how, it's just constant. It's there. The stuff isn't moving, but partially it shows my personality.
Sure.
Kind of things. Some people are never going to notice it, but this coffee cup over here, it's called Top of the Morning Coffee.
Okay.
And I watch a YouTuber named Jacksepticeye. He's Irish.
Okay.
And he loves coffee. And he's this high energy, loud dude. And he plays video games. But he started a coffee company called Top of the Morning. And I love coffee myself. And I love this gentleman, so I wanted to support him. And I wanted to put that on there because that's kind of a part of my personality.
Yeah.
And he's a big reason why I'm on YouTube today. Because he impacted my life at some point. And it inspired me to start a YouTube channel.
Yeah.
And so, that's kind of just little things like that.
No, I love it because it tells a story. It's not just it's not a trinket. There's actually a reason to have it around.
Yeah, I didn't just go to Amazon and buy it.
That's the difference because it actually has a story connected to you instead of I see I want to do a podcast. So I'm going to try to make a table like Ryan. I'm going to get a mug because he has a mug. Mm-hmm. There's no value in that. There's no point. Right. You know what I mean? But there's a reason why you have that top of the morning mug. And that's what I love because it's there's a genuineness to it, but there's a reason why it's here because of a story. Yeah.
Thank you.
But is this silver?
Yeah. 1 kilogram real silver. Heavy, isn't it?
It is heavy.
For how small it is.
I love that.
It's one of my favorite pieces on the table. Because it was a big thing. I love precious metals.
Yeah.
But you ain't going to see me wearing them.
Yeah.
I'm not going to be wearing, to me, I have no desire for that. Mm-hmm. But I do love precious metals, and I'm an investor. And I want to be like big investor. Like I hope one day I can get to the point where I'm investing in real estate and small businesses and precious metals.
So wait a minute. So I'm cutting you off, but I'm just curious because I forgot about the gym again. So you say you want to be an investor. You have a gym.
Yeah.
Aren't you an investor? Like you,
I think if you put it in like technical terms, maybe. I don't know. Depends on who you ask. I think.
Okay.
For some reason
Did you inherit the gym? Let me just ask you this: like, what got you on that? Like,
what got me into the gym?
Yeah, like, did you just see like driving by and you were eating pizza and you're like, oh, there's a for sale sign on a gym, or like what?
No. So I didn't start working out a day in my life till I was 21. I'm 30 now.
Okay.
21 was the first time I stepped into the gym. This was the same year I quit drinking soda.
Okay.
And I was making changes in my life.
Okay.
And I had always wanted to work out, but I never did. I never felt comfortable in a gym. Like I felt like I didn't know what I was doing. And every time I walked in, everybody was staring at me. And nobody helped me get started. And so I remember from like 18 I did once, and 19 I did it once. I got a gym membership, and I walked in. I didn't know how to use any of the equipment other than the treadmill, which is pretty self-explanatory. You just get on it, press start, and start walking.
Right. Okay.
And so I would run for 5 minutes. I would get in there because I don't want to walk on a treadmill because I was like, man, that's kind of silly. Like I'm here to work out. Like my interpretation at 20 years old was when you work out, you got to go in the gym. It's got to be high intensity. You got to be sweating.
Sure.
You got to be working out the whole entire time, real hard, everything like that. And so I went in once when I was like 18, once when I was like 19. Went for a week, quit both times. I was like, this isn't for me. My parents didn't work out. None of my friends worked out. And I'm like, this isn't me. I can't work out. I wanted to. Like I kept being pulled to it, but I was like, this isn't for me. And it wasn't until I was 21, one of my friends got out of the Marines. One of my best friends got out of the Marines, and we were going to school together.
Okay.
And I told him, I was like, man, I really want to start working out. He's like, well, why don't you? And I'm like, I don't know, dude. I just don't feel comfortable in there. I just feel like I don't belong. He's like, it's not like that at all. He's like, let's just go join. He's like, I'll get you on a workout plan, and we'll work out every day. I'll work out with you. I'm like, all right, man, we'll try it. And I went in, and I'm like, the whole time, I'm like looking around, like worrying about everybody that's staring at me. And he just told me one day that was like a big turning point for me because I was trying to go, and maybe I was doing it for the wrong reasons at first. Like I was just trying to get in better shape to maybe impress women or something.
Sure.
Like I had felt pulled to it, but maybe I didn't realize why I need to be in there. And he told me one day, like after leaving the gym, he's like, if you're not doing this for yourself, you'll never stick with it. Like if you're doing it for anybody else but yourself, but to better yourself, he's like, you're not going to stick with it.
That's a really good point.
And then I realized, I'm like, okay, yeah, I need to make sure that when I'm going, it's for me and not for anybody else. Because if I'm doing it for somebody else and it's not working out, then I'm just going to quit.
Sure.
But if I'm doing it for myself, I'm going to stick with it. And so I told myself, you're going to keep working out, you're going to get in better shape, and you're not going to miss for nothing. I remember I went on Thanksgiving Day because I joined December 2nd,
Okay.
2013. And I've never quit the gym since.
And that was when you were 21.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. I had just turned 21.
Okay.
So I turned 21 September 5th of 2013. October of 2013, I quit drinking soda. That was like one of my first challenges to try to tackle.
Okay, yeah.
And then December 2nd of 2021, I joined the gym. And I told myself, okay, here's another challenge. Let's see if we can tackle it. And it was a betterment of myself. And so this is what kind of started my journey in my life. Because I had made so many bad decisions. And they were just going down. I was just like doing life aimlessly with no goals and no reason behind my life at all. I was like, you're going to start making some changes for the better. Mm-hmm. And then, I started, and he helped me get comfortable with it. And then I just kept going. And I went on Christmas Day. I went on Thanksgiving. I never missed a single day. Weekends I missed.
Sure. Okay.
But if Christmas landed on a Wednesday,
yeah,
you get up early,
yeah,
you go to the gym. Or you do Christmas in the morning, and you go to the gym that night. And so that's what I did, and I kind of just thought it was going to be a hobby forever.
Okay.
'Cause I started realizing like I had a lot of extra energy, and it came out in bad ways because I didn't know how to control my emotions, and so I would let them all build up, and then they would come because I had all this extra energy. They just blow up.
Sure.
You know, and I would end up freaking out on someone or punching a hole in the wall or just doing something that was very embarrassing.
Sure.
For anyone to do. And so it helped me learn to control that kind of stuff.
Yeah, okay.
Kind of master my mind a little bit.
Okay. Yeah.
take some of that energy down. And then I was passionate about cars. That was the only thing I ever liked in life was cars. And it was like it was the biggest thing I could get into as a young boy. The car was looking up, right? Like at 15 years old, looking up at buying a $3,000 car was up there.
Yeah.
Right. So there was the biggest challenge I could get to at my life. And so I got into cars and I liked painting them. And I was like, I could flip cars. I could make money there. One day I could buy a body shop if I learned how to do it all. And so that was my goal in life right there.
Okay.
So I was kind of just working towards some goals. And it got to the point where I ended up in a body shop and I had done everything. I had blocked on cars. I had fixed frames. I was painting cars full. Like the painter in a body shop is kind of the top. If there was a pyramid and you're out in the shop and you're a painter, you're kind of at the top. That's how most shops look at it.
That makes sense because you're saying how much detail goes into just even one little thing that people think is very easy.
Yes. Yeah, like even just tacking it in between coats, or I used to wear a paint suit and I had like a water mister and I would just lightly mist my suit to keep, like, when you look into a window and you can see the little fuzzies through the sun?
Yes.
I would, they're coming off of stuff. And so in a paint booth, it's the same way. There's like this piece of lint right here floating through the air. It would stick to your paint job. And if you look at it just right, you can see it in your paint job. So I would just lightly mist my paint suit down to keep that lint from coming off of it. I would spray the floor outside of it. So when I walk in, no dust is sticking to the bottom of my shoe. I was just paying attention to all that stuff. But it got to the point where I did everything I could do in a body shop. I had wrote estimates and I was painting cars without even thinking about it anymore. And at this point now, for a couple of years, I had realized that I wanted to do some stuff in the investing realm to just help my life out, like when it came to retirement. And that was like my first thought was, I'm going to buy a rental property, and when I retire at 65 years old, I'll have one property paid off, bringing in $650 a month.
Sure.
That could pay for a car, that could pay for my house, it could pay for something.
Yeah, grocery, yeah.
And so that's all I was thinking about then. And then I got that one, and I'm like, well, what if I did two? Then I could have $1,200 bucks. And then I started learning about real estate. So I picked up like the burr method, or I picked up Robert Kiyosaki's book.
I don't know what that is.
The burr method.
Yeah, I've never heard of that.
So it's a company called Bigger Pockets.
Okay.
It's a real estate book.
Okay.
And the burr method is buy, rehab, rent out, refinance, repeat. So it's just this process they came up with, which is basically what people have been doing for years anyway, but they just put it into a word, into a book, and how to do it all. Okay. And it's a copy and paste style method that is kind of like proven to work.
Sure. Okay.
And so, like I started learning about that, and I was like, oh, like I could do this. I could do this and scale it up and maybe make some more money than, because in a buy shop, you're making $600-700 a week, just barely getting by. I'm not buying a new vehicle. I'm not buying a brand new house. I'm not really doing big things in my life. And I was feeling pulled to them. And so I was acting on it. I'm a doer. Like when I read it or I learn it, I'm like, I want to go out and try it.
Okay. Yeah.
So I just started doing it, and it started working out for me. And I just kept trying and trying. And in 1 year, I made more money in real estate than I did working a 40-hour week for 52 weeks in a body shop. And that's when I realized not only that I could make more money outside of the auto body world, but I was also at a point where I wasn't happy in a body shop anymore. There was nothing fulfilling about going in and painting a car again, because I had learned everything I could learn. So now it's like, okay, after reading all these financial help books, after reading these self-help books, I was like, man, I need to be making some changes. I'm listening to Joe Rogan and all these successful people on there and how they talk about they're chasing their dreams and their lives are getting better because they just went out and chased their dreams. And even the radio talk show I listened to in the morning, The Point, the guy that's on it, Scott Rizzuto, he talked about how he was in Boston, he got on the radio, and he got offered a gig in St. Louis, and it's been the best thing in his life. And he talks about how he did it with no backup plan, and it worked out for him. And all these really successful people tell me that what they had to do was just go chase their dreams, take a chance on it, and have no backup plan. And I was like, you need to just do it, Ryan. Like, you feel pulled to it, you need to just do it.
Sure.
And so then now I'm like, okay, now what do I do? Like, do I try to buy a body shop? Do I start my own? Or what business do I go into if I'm going to get out? Because now I have I have some money.
Right.
I made more money in real estate 1 year than I did in body shop. So I'm like, okay, you need to do something. Still really involved in the fitness industry, but our community was lacking very, very bad. I'm looking to get out of the auto body industry because I'm just burnt out on it. And I was going to buy a building, and then one of the local gyms that I went to reached out to me and said, hey, I'm interested in selling our building. And it was a 10,000 square foot building. And I'm like, I don't think
That's big.
Yeah, it's huge. I'm like, I don't think I can afford that. Like, that's kind of above me still. Like, that's.
Did you say that? I'm just curious. Did you say that before you knew the price?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
Well, because I think
You just assumed?
I think I just assumed. And I
Okay.
think maybe their building was for sale at one time, but they didn't advertise it on the market. I think I had just seen at roughly how much they were wanting for it.
Okay.
So I was like, I kind of had an idea in my head that I wasn't going to be able to afford the building. And I'm like, I'm sorry, you guys. I don't think I can afford the building. Because they had a gym in there. And I kind of had another idea for business at this time. All I knew that if I started a business, I wanted to be impactful with it. Like, it had to be something that was going to help benefit people's lives in my community.
Okay, sure.
And so I was kind of thinking about it, and then they're like, okay. And then they sent me a message back, and they said, hey, we'd be interested in selling the gym along with the building. And I'm like, okay, now I'm interested, because now they have some business, and they can add some more value for it to me. And I already am in the fitness industry, and that's something that I think that I could really help the community out, because there's no 24-hour gyms in my community.
Okay. Yeah.
There's no supplement stores. There's no wraps. There's nothing like that in my community that the community needs. And so I had a list of things going to the gym that I'm like, man, we could use this equipment. We need to change this. We need to change this. But I would never say that to the owner because I don't own it.
Sure.
So I need
sure.
that's like in my eyes, I'm like, I would never go up to the owner and be like, hey, you should make this place 24/7, because I don't know what it's like to be in that financial state to have to try to do that. And so I'm like, if I buy it, sure, I'll do whatever and I'll say whatever I can. But until then, I'll just keep my mouth shut, because it's their business.
Sure.
But then I got the opportunity to buy it, and I'm like, I think I'm going to do it. And so I did it, and I love it.
That is so neat. That is, yeah.
Yeah, but now I'm ready for the next step. I think if I can find someone that has a passion for it like I do, I will hand it off. I won't hand it off unless someone has a passion for it like me. But I am just like in the body shop. You could always add things to your business. I can add tanning. I could add a basketball court. I could add 10 different supplement lines. I could bring in tennis shoes.
Right.
I could do all kinds of stuff. I have a lot of plans. One, it has to fit financially into the plans. But two, it has to be able to justify adding this. Like a basketball court, it's going to cost me $1 million to build. My community's just not big enough for it.
Sure.
The tanning thing, I'll add tanning in one day. But if my problem is that's not enough fulfillment for me in my life.
Right.
Like, I have some bigger goals for me that I want to also chase after, but I do think there's somebody that would love to just run a gym every day. Mm-hmm. Like, they would run it themselves, and they would love it. And I think that if I could pass it on to somebody like that, I think my community and me would benefit greatly from it. Mm-hmm. For right now, I'll do everything I can for it, but I think I'd be better off in a business that was larger.
Yeah.
Because I think I could be more impactful there. And I think it's just I'm in the position where I can shop around to find somebody that is, because my business is successful.
Yeah.
It makes money. It's recently renovated. It has lots of members. People enjoy it. I'm on top of everything. I have some systems built. It's a great time to be able to pass it on to somebody else. It needed all that. And unless someone like me would have came in, it could have went that other direction. But now I got this package built where maybe somebody that doesn't want to do all that legwork that I did, that just wants to run it,
Sure.
can come in, buy it.
Sure.
It's everything's already in place.
Yeah. Okay.
And so that's kind of where I'm at right now.
That's fascinating, because there's so many things that touch on, like, it's funny, early on when I was like reading some of those books, I was like, oh, okay. So the whole thing about having, achieving goals is ideas. So like I would just superimpose that and like drop the book. Okay. So that I can get a bunch of ideas, but then that doesn't translate. Cause just like you said, like you could have like a basketball court, you could have like stand-up tanning, you could whatever. There's a lot of things you can do to make money, but what resonates with you to genuinely do it, or what resonates with the product genuinely, like your gym, you might not need cryotherapy. yeah, you could maybe make money at it, but it might not even be something that you would like translate to make your system, you know?
Yeah.
But
And
then
not be selfish about it either.
Yeah, yeah.
There's some people that would, like in my community, that they want a bodybuilding gym. They want it. They want the metal plates that clink together whenever you're lifting, and they want like the big deadlift spots. They want hard rock in the background.
Right.
And if they would get it, they would have turned it into that. And I couldn't do that. Like you gotta be realistic whenever you're going into these things, and you gotta think about the people coming to your facility that want to use it, not about yourself. If I built a gym in my house, I could build it tailored completely to me.
Sure.
But you gotta tailor to the audience that you're looking to get.
Sure.
You know, and
sure.
so like the tanning thing is 100% something that'll be added. It's like on my list of things. It's just a matter of time before I get it. But yeah, you know, it's something that you got to think about other people for sure.
Yeah.
When you're going into a business, and I don't think a lot of people do. I think a lot of people do. I think a lot of people go into business for selfish reasons.
Yeah.
And if you might not know it at the time, but the more, if you can recognize it and start paying attention, you can really start realizing like, oh, this person really cares about the community. They really care about my customers that come here. And this is the business that should be getting my money versus maybe this gym down the road. They put no money back into it.
Right.
You know, they just don't care about it. They're not actually trying to get pieces. I moved my gym around like 10 times because I didn't like the flow of it. Like I didn't like just the way like you walked in and the machines just weren't corresponding with each other the way they should.
Yeah.
So I would be in there just moving the machines around. I'm like, okay, do I like this? And it took like tweaking and little things like that. But I'm like, I think people will like this.
But I love that because that's what matters.
It does.
That's the only thing that matters, in my opinion. Have you ever read the book Badass Your Brand? Pia Silva? Okay. That's a fantastic book. I definitely recommend just having it on your list.
I'll add it to it.
Because, so I'm a very passion-driven person. And sometimes you get like too far off. And it's funny because Julia balances me out great because she's extremely like, she's more stoic and she can approach things by thinking through things and not just jumping right in both feet because I have an idea 5 seconds ago. But Pia Silva talks about passion, like how to get to the heart of where you're at, just by, if you can't figure out what you love about it, what do you hate about it? And then based off of that, what do I hate about this? Change those things or make those corrections. So what I love about what you were doing, like a lot of people would think, I have a gym, so I'm going to go on gymowners.com and figure out everything that maybe should be like the most popular thing in the industry and try to incorporate that. But I love what you're doing is like, one, you don't need any money to do what you're doing. All you need to do is, hey, the flow feels wrong. I'm going to fix the flow, or I'm going to fix this. And I love that because it's genuine and it's creating something that is of value to people. That's not like just trying to find the hottest trend of this or that, or what's, you know.
Yeah. Passing your passion onto your customers.
Yeah. Because there's so much value in that. And
yes, there is.
Yeah. And you did not need to be.
I guess our businesses have a lot of similarities.
Very much so.
And I think almost every business probably has some very connecting similarities in that way. But yeah, we were talking about the way you painted your ceiling.
Yeah.
And how you changed the color of your ceiling because you didn't like the feeling that it gave.
Yeah.
Because you had like a gold colored.
So when we bought the building, so the building was built in the 1800s by the Limp family.
Okay.
And I never knew about the Limp family, but learning about them, I just thought the ghost tours over in wherever that's the only thing I thought about the Limp family.
Yeah, the Limp Brewery.
Yeah.
Or in Just City.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. But actually, when we found out about this family, so whatever your head thinks about when you hear the term Budweiser, think of just replacing that name, and the Limp family basically had that. That's what's so crazy about this story to begin with. So the Limp family was basically the first ones to bring lager beer to America, and they were the first ones to figure out refrigerated distribution.
Whoa.
And they were the first ones to nationally distribute a brand that was in St. Louis to the entire United States off this platform. So our building was created solely for the purpose, it's right next to the railroad, solely for the purpose to deliver this beer in refrigerated, to have a hub to distribute it to grocers. But also they were smart enough to realize there's kind of a life of stability on this stuff. So we also need to have a brew tavern that's part of the distribution to also serve to the public, so that other stock that's not being distributed to the local grocers is getting turned.
Whoa. So that's what your building was?
Yeah.
Whoa.
Yeah. So then what's really crazy is Julia did a little bit of a deep dive on the family. That's how we learned a lot of these things when we got the building. So we bought the building in 2018. We found out the building was built in the 1800s. And she found an original receipt from these operations that they had. This one was like in Wyoming or whatever. She found it on eBay. And it said Limp Family, St. Louis. It was a receipt written out for a barrel of whiskey and one or two other items. And we found on the thing, and this is crazy because this quote haunted me after I heard this quote before. What you seek might be seeking you. I heard this quote before this. And then she showed me this receipt, and it said Limp Family, liquor, beer, and cigars.
Cool.
And they sold cigars in that building.
That is
and
awesome.
It freaked me out.
Yeah, it is.
Like, I still
Kinda
get
gives you chills.
Yeah.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah. So that was, so our building, long story short, was built then. It went through several different remodels. Last remodel it had was in the early 80s, I think. Mint green, I think, was really a thing. I can't really find something that looks like that in this room, but it's, it was just like a really light, almost call it like hospital scrubs green.
Okay.
Kind of vibe. Mm-hmm. The whole ceiling was painted that. All the paneling on the walls were painted that. We didn't even know the brick was exposed or usable. It was all covered up by wood paneling. So when we were thinking about this experience, we were like, the first idea I had for this whole experience, Julie and I were sitting out on our back deck, and the thing that came to me was golden light. Golden light and the largest map we could find.
Where did you find that map?
So, that's a long story in of itself.
It's got to be...
Yeah, so...
how tall is it, 12 foot?
Yeah, it's really tall. It's a really big. So we found it. So it was from Sweden, and it's the only company that makes that creates map structures that big.
Yeah.
So
I couldn't imagine
it was
a lot of companies that make something.
No, it was ridiculous. It was really difficult to. And then Julia actually figured out how to build a picture frame because there's no picture frames that big.
Right.
So she had to figure out how to make it framed like a picture frame because we just didn't want it against the wall. But anyway, that was the idea. Golden light, biggest map we could find. We figured out that half the thing with golden light is what it's reflecting off of or how that's set.
What's golden light?
So like Edison bulbs.
Oh, okay.
So it was kind of like this journey I was going on when I was doing like more corporate style work or work that was more about just product and like moving product. And I kept on seeing this recurring theme of like blue light or fluorescent light. And to me, that felt like a corporate feel.
Yeah, totally understand that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So then I started like noticing things that I would like gravitate towards is more of a golden hue or more of, and to me, it just felt like analog or digital. And I kept on thinking like, I would love to tell more of the story or to cultivate more human connection under analog. And digital's great. We have a ton of digital, but I just felt like there's a hunger for me personally to share more of that analog experience. Like
when you
fireside,
say analog,
yeah.
what do you mean by analog?
So I guess I get the difference between an electric heater or a campfire.
Okay.
That's what my head relates those to. Or a fluorescent light bulb or like a digital light bulb or like a light bulb that actually is burning filament to create like it's a golden like light. Mm-hmm. So those are the first two ideas that like wrote down for this concept called Leatherwood. It was golden light and the largest map we could find.
Did you have the name already picked out?
So that's a funny thing too. Remember I said about ideas? Mm-hmm. Julia and I, when we got married, we always wanted to do something. So we actually had 4 or 5 notebooks.
You guys wanted to do something that...
together. We wanted to do a project together that like we could collaborate on to add, because we have different backgrounds. Like I was a musician. I did different like sales jobs. I did different, I worked at pet hotel, pet stores, different things. Mm-hmm. Julia came from the background of body work. So her parents owned a body shop. Mm-hmm. She learned a lot about like fabrication that way. She also learned, she's a race car driver.
That's crazy.
Yeah. So she
like dirt track, like B mod, A mod, or she on
no.
Like
so she
asphalt?
so more asphalt. So what happened was because her father owned a body shop and he did many different things. He loved cars. Mm-hmm. He would work on cars, make them more high performance. He loved Porsches. He loved, CUDA, all these different things. So he redid this entire CUDA. And there was a show at the time running called Bull Run. And he was like, it would be fun to go on that show. And this is before I knew her. And so they created an audition tape. And then something out of a crazy amount. There was like 2 other slots available for the show. They sent in this audition tape. They were camping, I think, in Bunker, Missouri. When they got this call, they had to go up to the top of the hill. They got the call voicemail, and they were like trying to see what it was about. And they thought it might have to do with that. And they were selected out of thousands to be on this. It was some crazy number. I know I'm going to lie if I say a huge number, but it was a lot.
Yeah.
So anyway, so she got into that. But she's very creative.
Oh, cool. That's a very,
yeah.
almost like a once in a lifetime experience.
Absolutely. Yeah. But she has a very interesting background, and it's all about just, learning and discovering different things. She's also a photographer. She's been into art. She's done art, different media. So
you see a lot of people, I see a lot of people that their background's kind of, art has a lot to do. Like, it might not be directly, but like even like a videographer or a photographer, or even like what you do, and there's an art involved. It painting cars, I consider it as an art. There's so much, like, people might say they're not into art, but I really do believe that art is a part of a lot of things people do. Like, when you're building something new, it is a little bit of an artistic thing.
100%.
Even like a product, when you're building it, and I'm making a CAD file for one, that's an art form. Like, there's something to that is like, I don't know. It's just so crazy how like art really, even like someone that lays concrete or builds houses, you're building this thing, and it has like a design to it, and that's all art.
Yeah.
And so there's so many, like, art is like a part of people.
Yeah.
Like of so many people.
Well, and that's what really spoke to me when we met, seeing this. And then that progression after we got married. So we've been married now 13 years. We're going on 13 years. So first couple of years when we were married, we would have these ideas and write them down, and everything from like a midnight ice cream place to like a whatever, just all these different ideas, but none of them quite resonated or quite made sense with the different backgrounds we had, or to actually authentically put something in. Because then it would come down to, well, we could definitely make money at this, but then it always kind of fell short. Just like when you said you can't work out if you're doing it for someone else, it's got to be for you. We couldn't execute any of those ideas because it was only about money. It's like, that would make a living. That would be a good idea to make a living, whatever. So then fast forward, when we get this building, we start creating this very deliberate concept, and the thing was painted mint green, and this is not going to work. So then it took us on that whole journey of just literally going down, micro focused on getting the right hue of paint so that golden light would diffuse instead of just look like it's not designed to be fancy. There's supposed to be some type of elegance to it, but the biggest thing we did not want is someone to feel like, oh, I'm in my grandmother's like really nice dining room or something. Right. Like, that's not the point.
I
nothing against your grandmother's dining room, but you know what I mean. You know what I mean.
Yeah, no, it has such an amazing vibe to it.
Well, thank you.
And you can't, like, even in my video, I think it looked awesome in my video, but I don't even think it didn't even touch on what it like really felt like. It was like I said, it was such an amazing experience just to be there, to be able to hang out there. I don't know. It was like the way you combined everything there. I think you did it, man. I think like it was just.
Well, that means a lot. It means a lot. I think it did.
How long did it take you from day one when you bought the building to opening day? How long of a gap was that?
So 2018 is when the building was actually purchased. Mm-hmm. We did our soft open on the building November of 2020. And the lounge part that you were in, we did the grand open to unveil that lounge last May.
Whoa. So quite the lengthy process.
Yeah.
So were you running the front for a while, and then you were working in the back?
So the entire concept was the concept, but to scale it again, because people were like, well, then how did you do all this or whatever? It was literally like eating an elephant, like one bite at a time, because it was like so overwhelming. And this is funny too, action, right? The thing I loved about when we were talking is you're like, let's just get the calendar and figure this out. Mm-hmm. And even though I love the idea of it, I was like, oh, I don't know. Like, I don't know how my schedule looks. So Julia, I'm more of an action type person. Julia's more like, let's see, like whatever. So when we had this idea, I kept on like, oh, let's just act on it. Let's act on it. So we actually find the building, and we actually are like, Julia's like, okay, so let's go ahead and make an offer on this. And I'm at the job that I don't like, all these different things. I've been waiting for a moment like this for a while. And then all of a sudden, like, man, that idea is way sexier on this notepad than actually thinking about buying this old 1900 or 1800s building, remodeling, and I'm terrified.
Just for a chance.
Right, just for a chance. Just not even like, because there's no set thing, because we're not going by a formula. We wanted to tell a story by way of a space and put this creativity that we both have into it. And it was like, oh, man, maybe not.
It's scary.
Yeah.
It's very scary.
Yeah. And then I secretly felt really good when we actually put an offer in. It didn't work out. It was declined. And I was like, okay, well, at least we can say to all our friends, you know, at dinner or whatever, we tried, or this or that.
Yeah.
And then I realized, like, it doesn't matter trying, or the story doesn't even matter. It actually matters more to not talk about it right now and actually to make this happen. So then when it came back again, the building came back.
Like it came back on the market?
No, that didn't sell, but it was still on the market.
So
But
did
they just
somebody
wanted
else
more
make an
money.
offer? Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. They decided it had been listed for a long time, wasn't quite moving, but then there was price adjustments and there was a bunch of, it felt like 6 months in between the whole process, but it ended up being like,
Ended up being more?
yeah, it ended up being more than what we planned on. And there again, that was
Oh.
like the first moment, just like with the whole ceiling thing. It was like there's so many moments about this project that felt like this is it. There's no way we can move forward on it. It's done. So then after we got our budget, after we figured all this stuff and we finally got up enough courage to do an offer, declined, I was secretly like, cool.
Yeah.
And then
I tried.
Yeah, we tried, no problem. We'll just kind of stick to what we're doing. Maybe we shouldn't be jumping that ocean, right? Then like it literally was like 4 or 5 months later. Well, would you do this for it? And we kept on thinking through it. And then it was like, if it was right at that price, it's still right at this other price because the main thing is that it's right. We need to be doing this. So we did it, but that was
So who was the
terrifying.
pusher in the relationship? Who was the one that was? Were you like, we tried, we didn't get it? Was she, or was it? Were you
As
both agreeing?
as cliche as it sounds, there was moments of weakness on my end, and there was moments of weakness on her end. But
Together, you
thank
guys
God,
pushed each other.
thank God, the moments of weakness on her end was when I was feeling strong about it, and vice versa.
Yeah. I think that's what's great about having a partner. Even in the gym, like
Right.
the days that you're not motivated, your partner might come in, they're feeling great. And so they're
Yes.
like, nope, we gotta hit this last set.
Right.
And so it is good to have a partner that is equally motivated as you are.
Yeah.
To push you through those moments.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because like for me, my moments of doubt are seldom, but I do have them, and you got to have someone around you that's willing to just push you and tell you that, hey, that's just a moment of doubt, or like they're willing to try to help you perceive it in a different way or push you in a different way. Because if you have someone that every time you have those moments of doubt, they just pull you down, you go the wrong direction.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. And the whole thing too about like, I mean, being a creative person, it's kind of a roller coaster process. Like you kind of have to watch yourself emotionally because bringing emotion out can be really cool, but also like can be really like a lot of like inner stuff that you have to deal with, like on the downside of it, like putting passion into things. Like it's, so yeah, that's tricky. You have to really watch that because it can be a really awful,
You can go the wrong direction.
yeah, downswing. Yeah.
So I got a question I want to go back to the cigars.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I talked about snipping into the one to just look
Yeah,
at
absolutely.
it
Yeah,
just for fun of it.
cut one. Yeah, for sure.
I'm going to say, because you like these. You said you guys keep these in similar ones in this store.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Do you think you have this exact one in your store somewhere?
Yeah, so we have those, those exact ones. Absolutely. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. We call those kind of the daily driver category. So those fall under a category of like, they're not like the top end of a cigar. They're a great like flavor, great things about them. But they're good for like, you could literally have, one any day of the week and it'd be fine. But if you're celebrating a special occasion, you could still celebrate with something like that too.
Cool.
Kind of thing. So yeah.
I
really
think
good.
I think I had tried these before and I thought they were okay. So that's why I got them again. But I just tried. Like I said, I don't know nothing about them. So
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm just trying different things.
So it's Nica. So the Mi Amor, this is Mexican San Andreas wrapped over Nicaraguan tobacco. And region dictates flavor a lot like wines. Like a wine from St. James, Missouri is going to taste totally differently than a wine from France or from Napa.
Sure, yes.
Same with tobacco, exactly the same. So this particular cigar, the Mi Amor, has Mexican San Andreas tobacco wrapped over. So that's a leaf wrapping over the Nicaraguan tobacco.
So
and it creates a
where is
profile.
Nicaraguan at? It's in
So Central America,
Central America. So
I believe.
Ariel, can you pull that up for me?
Like I'm
please?
awful at geography, but it's
Well, that's
they're
why
kind
I
of
asked
in, they're
because I
kind of like in
understand.
a little cluster. So like so the main places that these tobaccos are coming from, that the families from that originated in Cuba, they fled to either Dominican Republic, Nicaragua, or Honduras. That's kind of the main three where these tobaccos are grown.
Okay, can you?
Oh, this is cool. We can actually see the map.
Yeah.
I love maps too, so this is fun.
Oh, okay.
So you see they were in Cuba, and basically what happened is a lot of these families in Cuba, they started doing their business there. But then when the embargo happened, they were like, well, we can't do business because this is import, export. This is affecting trade. We need to have some like consistency.
Yeah.
So like the Fuente family went to Dominican Republic. The Plasencia family, they're actually coming for that event we talked about on May 20th. The Plasencia family's coming to
We're
St.
going to try to
James.
make it to that. I'm excited about that.
Yeah, absolutely. So they reside in Nicaragua now. They started in Cuba.
So
in
anyone that's listening to the podcast, if you guys are following along in your car, you can't see the video. Well, we don't even have it. We don't have it pulled up on there. But it's at basically at the very bottom of Mexico, right above Costa Rica. Like as far down in Mexico as you can go. Basically, where it's connecting to South America South America.
Yeah. And then there's different tobaccos
Directly down from Cuba.
Yeah, and there's different tobaccos that you can also get from,
Why do they all come
Costa Rica.
from? Why do they come from Nicaragua, Cuba, and Dominican Republic? Why are those or no?
Yeah, no. So no, you're right. So I think because coffee producing, there's certain similarities about coffee producing and tobacco producing. Also, volcanic soils have a lot to do with that, and then just the amount of sun and like the climate. Like
You can't make cigars. You can't make tobacco leaves in the United States.
no, you can. Absolutely can. Yeah, just like you can have wine in St. James, you can grow grapes in St. James.
Okay.
Certain climates though are more conducive of certain flavors, but then also at volume.
I just
That's a
never
big thing.
see American-made cigars. Like,
No, I mean,
is this
they're-
considered a stogie?
There's
What's a stogie? Why
yeah.
do people call them that?
Yeah, so stogies are just it's a slang term kind of for a cheap or a something that is like just a go-to cigar that is cheap.
So this
They
would be
say
a stogie.
Not necessarily. I don't think so I don't have much familiarity with that brand, but I believe that brand is supposed to be premium.
Really? Looks
Yeah.
cheap.
Yeah.
There's no like.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, I mean,
that one has
definitely.
some cool
yeah,
design
Yeah,
and stuff, so it
absolutely.
looks like someone-
It definitely looks a lot more understated. I don't know much about that family though, but from what I understand, I think that cigar is handmade. There's different classifications also. Like, is it long filler, meaning like is it full leaves that it's rolled out of, or is it like
That's what I wanna find
pieces?
out.
Or yeah.
I want to just see.
Yeah,
This
absolutely.
one, I didn't like these at all.
Okay, yeah.
Tried one, didn't like it. I liked those a lot. I did not like these.
And it's also funny too because regions are also a thing based off of what people like. So some people love. So I'm going to give you. I love rabbit like going down rabbit holes.
do it.
But so Dominican Republic. So Dominican Republic. I didn't realize in Haiti they are connected, right? But Dominican culture is derived more from or stems more from Parisian culture because they were colonized by the French.
Okay.
So what's interesting is a lot of the personality of Dominican cigars and flavor is heavily influenced by Parisian. So even the way cigars are dressed.
Is that why they're
Dominicans-
named the way they are? Because
certain
more
ones,
of a
not
French
these
style
but-
name. Isn't
Okay,
it?
yeah. So certain ones. This in particular, this is actually Nicaraguan tobacco with the Mexican San Andreas, but also cigar culture translates and also kind of like cross inspires. So there's different things that romantic, but it's also romantic languages, right? Like Cuba. There's that kind of Latin kind of romance feel to it. So you have some of that crossover as well.
Okay.
But we learned a lot of personalities of those countries just from the cigars they hand make. Just by getting to know that and the flavor. So anyway, I wasn't trying to like completely go off subject, but it's just interesting to note.
Okay. I feel like this one's getting dried out.
It
This
definitely
one looks dried out.
It definitely
actually.
looks dry because the band moving around like this. You know how I said cigars are like sponges. So they recede when they come down in size when they don't have as much moisture. So this band was put on. And obviously this should not move around this much, but this cigar has shrunk.
Yeah.
And that's why it's moving around.
You're starting to see the definition in it almost looks like a dried up leaf that would,
Sure.
in the fall, would fall off a tree and dry up
Absolutely.
on the ground.
Yeah.
That's kind of what the leaf's starting to look like. You can see like the stems in it and stuff now.
So what's also interesting to note, though, is you said this didn't taste as good. It very well could be that not this family or not this company made a bad cigar because it's dried out. That could be a reason why this particular cigar tasted bad.
So
just
I like there's a flow to a cigar,
Yeah.
and that's something I look for too.
So what do you mean by flow?
So it's like I can tell the airflow that goes through the leaves.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
And so there's some of them that I've had in the past that I try to cut them all the exact same.
Okay.
And I don't. You actually said the V cut. Is that considered a V cut? Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
The V cut is actually a better flow, right?
So, okay, this is what's interesting. So, again, there's so many different habits or practices that don't always make sense into actually reality or like application. The cuts are kind of like the difference between shapes of glass when enjoying like a bourbon or a wine. So, the cut is just changing articulation of how the smoke is hitting your palate and also changing the way that the cigar feels in your mouth. So sometimes a V cut, yes, can be less resistance because you're taking a little notch out of that cigar. But some families actually roll cigars to have a particular amount of resistance. And whether you cut it a V or cut it a straight, you're still going to have more resistance than a cigar like the Padron family. They love having a very non-resistant draw to their cigar. It's literally like you're breathing. That's how effortless the draw is. But not everyone likes that.
What family is that?
Padron.
Patron. Okay.
Yeah.
That's not the ones that make. Well, I don't want to get into that just yet, because I want to talk about.
I'm interested, but I'll stop because I can really hijack stuff. So anyway.
So well, I was just thinking about how there was like that cigar. It was like burned on its own.
Okay.
Like I lit it and it just like.
Yep. Okay.
Going.
Okay.
And it flowed really well, but I took in a bunch of nicotine from it, and I really
Yeah.
didn't like it at all. It just
Yeah, okay.
wasn't. I didn't even like whenever you smoke a cigar and it's just burning so fast that I have to feel like I have to keep flicking it.
Yeah.
Like I don't even get to enjoy it. It's gone that quick.
Right. Okay. Sure.
I like one that I like one that has like a somewhere in the middle, because I've
Yeah.
had ones that I've lit and it's like they're so packed that it doesn't. I could cut the whole end off and just pull on it, and it was still hard to get
Sure.
a pull out of it. And so yeah, I didn't like that one because it was too fast, and there's ones that I've had that was too hard to puff on.
So what's also interesting, Ryan, when you're saying all that is we could literally go into an hour on each variable, but even by way of how these things are stored, based off of how much humidity you give them, also can change draw. Because if you think about it, if it's over humidified, all of the different miniature little straws, how they roll the tobacco over, can kink by being over humidified. But you can also have a bunch of issues with if the tobacco is less dense from less fermentation or not as long aged, then you can also have issues where it's burning too quick because of that. So sometimes a tobacco can be extremely dense, where a cigar that's this shape could be a 2-hour cigar. Other cigars, this shape, this length, everything, could be a 30-minute cigar, like depending on what it is. Like, and there's a lot of subtlety to that, but
Makes sense, though.
Yeah.
I'm understanding it a lot more now.
Yeah.
This is not a humidified bag.
Okay, so that's definitely could be a big problem right there to start off with, because
Yeah. And there's no way to know how long it's been sitting. Because a smoke shop, they could have bought it for the smoke shop, put it in there, and it could have sat in there for a year.
Correct.
Because to the naked eye, it just looks
Right.
like any other cigar.
True.
So now I'll definitely be looking for, if I go to a smoke shop or something, I'll be looking for make sure it's a humidified bag.
Exactly. Yeah. Because
that's
that's really where that's really what you're paying for.
Cool.
Because if you want to blow smoke, you get leaves out of your backyard and roll them up and puff around. I mean, because that's what, yeah. So people ask, can you still smoke this? Some people ask us too, hey, I lit this up the night before and I really liked it, but I want to save half of it. Can I still smoke this 12 hours later, 24 hours later? And so I always tell them, like, if you want to blow smoke out of your mouth, yeah, that will not stop you from doing that. But if you're trying to enjoy the cigar for flavor, pitch it. Like, you do not want that cigar anymore.
You will still get the tobacco out, or you'll still get the nicotine out of it.
A little bit, but you're kind of just, it's not even that. You're literally, it's like opening a bottle of wine and setting it on your counter for like 2 days and thinking, man, this wine was incredible. And now it tastes like a bottle of vinegar. Mm-hmm. It still has the same label on it.
Sure.
It still looks like wine. It's called wine and you can technically drink it, but it won't give you any, if you want satisfaction, it won't give you any of that.
Gotcha.
That's kind of what's happening.
Okay. Yeah. So I would say this one's probably dried out.
Yeah, it definitely looks that way for sure.
So we're not even going to cut it open. Well, actually, I kind of want to.
Yeah, you totally could. You could, just see kind of what...
I want to cut the end of it off. And can you tell? This is the first time I use this, by the way. Wow. That's nice.
Yeah.
Can you tell by looking in the end of it there?
So...
If you guys are listening, I have this... Is it Colibri? Colibri. And it is this giant cube. And on one side, it's a V cut, and one's just a straight cut for a cigar. And whenever I was at Robert's... facility over there, he actually had one that was a lighter and then one was a cutter. And when he was lighting my cigar, I was like, I need that. I want to buy that. And he luckily had a cutter, so I ended up buying it. So we cut the end of it into a V cut, and then I just kind of want to.
Yeah. So it doesn't look like this is made out of like short fill. So it doesn't look like this is made out of like just little bits of tobacco that's rolled together. This looks like it's made out of. We can actually. Do you have a knife?
I should.
I generally have. Actually, I have a knife on me.
I have scissors.
Okay, so So I don't mess up your table here.
Yeah, you can mess.
Actually, okay, so
I want a new table anyway.
So we're getting a little bit of like stuff out of here. So this, I could be wrong. Sometimes they're really good about hiding it too. So sometimes when these things are made out of short fill, they'll wrap them in long fill, and it'll be a really like tricky way to do it, but it'll still look premium. So let's just find out. So all cigars are made out of 3 main components. So your first component is called the wrapper of the cigar. And this is where, again, the terminology gets really murky because people could think paper. Other companies will use the wrapper as paper, like a Swisher Sweet. Sometimes will be paper.
Okay.
So anyway, the wrapper is the generally the thinnest, but it also is the most aesthetically pleasing out of the leaves. Okay. So, and also to really get your head around something bizarre, is this wrapper generally accounts for 90% of the flavor of the blend.
Wow.
You're making a blend because it's all different tobaccos. Uh-huh. So anyway, so we have the wrapper there. So that looks like a long leaf it's made from. So then the second component is called the binder. So it's generally a leaf that goes on over that, over the blend, and that binder is holding all of the blend leaves together. So right now, we're not getting a full leaf. It just looks like pieces. So that's not great. Okay, now we're getting past... Okay, so it looks like the binder was partial long leaf, partial short leaves. So generally, the closer it looks like to a tobacco leaf, the better off we are. The more flavor, because we're retaining flavor too, instead of the more things, I'm sure you know with nutrition, the more things are processed, the less naturally occurring flavor or things that you have.
Yeah.
Okay, so we have a binder. It looks kind of like a binder.
You want me to get you a trash can?
Sure, if you want.
Yeah.
I told you I was trying to keep your table from being a mess, but we're just kind of diving in here.
No.
Okay, so yeah, so this cigar is definitely dry, but what we're looking at is probably not the best representation of a premium handmade cigar, because the more little pieces, the more little filler that is not like a long leaf put together, then yeah, you're sacrificing quality there.
Yeah.
So yeah, so
it was long leaves, but it's more like.
So it was like a mixture. It was 50-50.
Okay.
Yeah, and this is what's funny too, is still that doesn't, do you want the band? Do you want to keep your band? No? Okay.
Do people do that?
If they want to like remember it, or they have like a certain occasion that they're marking. I didn't know if you wanted
The only thing I would want to remember is not to
occasion
buy that one
of, I didn't know if you wanted to mark this occasion of me doing surgery on a cigar on your table.
No. I'm going to get some good cigars and get them here and
But
keep them in stock.
yeah, so it can mean a few different things. But what's another thing that's funny is that you can actually have a handmade cigar that's not made from like long fill. So you can still call it a handmade and still call it a cigar, but there's different degrees of quality even in that. And so it gets murky, and that's why we wanted to go into a very specific niche to really share the story of a true handmade premium cigar and how these families like make them, because they're like little works of art.
Yeah,
Like, really.
and it helps me really identify like now, what am I looking for when I'm going in? And sure, I might still pick out. Actually, I'm going to come to you and be like, hey, what do you recommend? And then I think that's going to help eliminate me just buying a bunch of cigars that I don't really like.
Sure, yeah, because you definitely don't want to do that. And also, people's palates are different based off of region. So some people really love the kind of natural earthiness of a certain part of Honduras. Some people absolutely love certain spice characteristics. Certain Nicaraguans have like sun-dried fruit zests or dry roasted cashews, notes like that. But again, it's also off of your palate. So if someone's like telling me, hey, I love super spicy food, I love zest, I love everything, then I'm probably going to give them a different cigar or suggest to them a different region or a different style than if you tell me like, hey, my favorite thing is banana pudding. And I don't like white pepper is really pushing it. And I'll do that once a month. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So yeah,
I'm excited to come over and just look through what you have now.
Sure. Yeah.
And be able to just pick something out and try it out. Because, I think I just have a lot better understanding. And I've been wanting to try it. But it's just like, I went into one in Naples, Florida. I went in two, actually. Super cool buildings.
Oh, yeah.
Like floor to ceiling cigars, like massive humidors. Like their humidors actually had a teller in it.
Okay.
It's one in Naples.
Okay.
It was like this it was like you walked into the facility and then you walk into another room and it's just this massive room, and the teller that checks you out is actually inside the room with you. And then like her full day is inside the humidor.
Yeah.
So it was very interesting, but when I went in there I didn't know what I was looking for.
Sure.
So I was still learning, and I'm actually like, I'm very grateful that I got this opportunity.
Yeah, no.
To sit down with you today.
Yeah, no, it's a lot of fun. I'm like super happy. You asked a lot of great questions, and it's fun to like tell you like some of those things about it because it just comes off a passion from what we like.
I think the people that are listening to are going to get something out of it.
Oh, for sure.
I think people that are like wanting to learn more about cigars, I think we definitely probably help them out just as much as we help myself out.
Oh yeah, no, for sure.
I think we're going to wrap it up.
Yeah.
I bet we're a couple of hours in.
I'm surprised how long we were here. Yeah.
It goes by quick.
It really does.
Yeah, it goes by quick, and maybe one day in the future, because I really wanted to talk about how do you say this again?
Colibri.
Colibri. This cube isn't just a cigar cutter. It's deprived from something else, right? It kind of was.
Yeah, so it was inspired by a guy named Daniel Marshall, and he had a very particular design language, and they wanted to design a symmetry, but like way zoom in on that side, the scale of the symmetry, to be a very tactile, to be just a really, everything about a cigar is meant to be enjoyable. And so even the accessories are meant to be enjoyable to even handle because it's about the simple things.
Yeah.
And that's really what that showcases.
Because you have a lighter there
Yeah.
that's made out of gold, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
And that's where we got to talking about it because I was like, I like that piece. And you're like, well, that one is like the Rolex lighters.
Sure.
And I was like, oh, okay, well, I understand. I probably can't afford that now, but I love that. And maybe I can get you back on one day. Maybe sometime in the future. Maybe your wife
absolutely.
can join in.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And
You'll have to have Julia on.
Yeah, maybe we can discuss that. Just out of curiosity, what does one of those lighters cost?
So that particular one, it's called the DuPont Legrand, and it's just under $1,700. And you get there's a lot of history, there's a lot of functionality behind it. But again, too, like it's not this lighter here. It doesn't mean that this lighter's any better, any worse than that one. This one is just what are you using it for? And that one, just like a Rolex, like can you tell time with other things? What gives you pleasure, but also what's kind of something that like something you want to have a treat. Like there's different levels of that. So the significance isn't really just the price, but it's a story behind that. And it's handmade in Paris. So there's a lot of different pieces that make that special. I mean,
whenever I have that on my table here, that's when you know I'll make it.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
That's like the you've made it status for me.
But it's
I don't know if it's a pricey.
Sure.
You got to have some money to be able to buy it for sure.
It's definitely an investment. I
Yeah.
mean, 100%.
But I think that, you know, if it ever got to the point where the podcast grew enough, that's something that's on my bucket list.
Yeah. No, it's fun. It's fun for sure.
Well, Robert, thank you so much for coming out today.
Ryan, this was like seriously awesome. And I just had fun like talking with you. Like,
Yeah, I'm glad you enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Glad you enjoyed it. If you guys are ever in the St. James area, make sure you guys go check out Leatherwood, even if it's just to stop in and check out the building, maybe buy a cigar. And then anyone that's interested in getting a membership there,
Yeah.
what's a membership look like?
Yeah. So there's different levels of membership. A lot of people even come in just for tours. They want to see the building. So you really don't have to be a cigar person to come in and enjoy. Like, you know, we love to show you what we've done with the building. Yeah. And so we've actually have members that enjoy the space for private, like corporate events. And we also have members that just literally love like stopping after wine tours and just having some wine before they head over to a great meal or something like that. So there's kind of different levels depending on what you need it for or what you wanting to use it for.
So you have wine tours in your facility?
So all St. James people are going through doing like wine tours through the wineries.
Okay, so they can
So we're
come
kind of
there.
a drop off point to where people like love to like finish a day of that. They'll come back and actually bring in a good bottle of one of their favorite wines. You know, settle out a little bit before dinner. Take the trolley over and then go have like dinner at Sybil's or something like that. That way they can, you know, kind of make a day of it. And a lot of people will use the lounge for that just as much as they will for, hey, I want to have a cigar and having a corporate event here.
What's the cost for like a day pass to come over and just...
Yeah. So a traveler's initiation, we call it that because it covers bottle service. So it allows you to bring in, if you have a bottle of wine or a good bottle of spirits, we don't serve you alcohol. So a traveler's initiation is $15. You check in, allows you a few hours access. And that way you don't have to have like a membership to still enjoy the lounge.
So if me and Ariel want to come over on a Thursday one evening...
You got it, yeah. You would just check in under a traveler's, and that way you would be able to enjoy, and then, yeah.
What would be a base membership where we could come anytime?
Yeah, so the next membership after that's called the Legionnaire, and it's $100 per quarter. So it's $100 charged 4 times a year. Yeah.
That's not bad at all.
Yeah.
Not bad at all. And do you get a locker with that, or is a locker...
So a locker is something you would add on to that. So that's a dram cabinet's meant for being able to store different spirits in there. So that's, I think, what you're referring to. Or are you referring to storing
that's what I
cigars?
meant.
Okay, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah.
How much is that to be able to do that?
So to add that on to a Legionnaire is $45 per quarter.
Cool.
Yeah.
Not bad at all.
Yeah, no.
You can keep all your favorites in there.
Absolutely.
Did Kate get my bottle yet? Has she been
She
in?
has not. She knows that there's a surprise
Okay.
there for her.
Yeah.
But she doesn't know what the surprise is or who left her the surprise.
Oh, cool.
So, yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, there's
I'm
definitely
excited.
an element of...
By the time this podcast comes out, I'm sure she'll be able to... I'm sure she'll
She'll be like,
about
what
it.
bottle? What are you talking about?
Well, so I think it'll probably be about... I'm going to try to get it out before your event on May 20th.
Okay.
But I do have a few people lined up
Sure.
ahead of this, and I post every Wednesday.
Yeah,
So
okay.
they come out every Wednesday. Before they come out, I'll certainly send you some information. I try to give all my guests a heads up before they're coming out.
Well, it's a super big honor just to like be a part of, like, I'm inspired by what you're doing. Like, and I, you know, if we connect it more, like, I'll love to learn more about what you're doing, what you have going on.
Cool.
But this was just a big win for me because I love being
We'll
around
definitely be cross paths.
For
all the
sure.
times.
Yeah.
I want to. I'm certainly going to be coming over and visiting you more in your facility.
Yeah. Maybe we'll have to have the old granddad next time.
Yeah, I'll bring it.
We'll pop that over.
I haven't even tried it yet.
Okay.
So
yeah.
I'd like to try it. I almost brought it that night, but I really like the alimony, so I wanted everybody to try it out.
If we're only 1 hour in, we could actually try that now.
We're
'Cause
2.5 hours in a bit.
It's nuts. That is so nuts.
Yeah.
And I
So-
never did. I don't drink whiskey this early either, but I was like, yeah.
I would. It's my week off. It doesn't bother me at all. I know Ariel's got to get going. She helps us edit and stuff.
For
but
sure.
I got to
No.
make sure that she gets out of here.
Thank
on
you
time
so
as
much
well.
too. Yeah, Ariel, for being able to do this. Like, seriously. Like, yeah.
She's a trooper for hanging
is a
out with
treat,
us and
yeah.
pulling up the ads or pulling up the Google for
Yeah.
us. And
Yeah, that is so much.
everything.
Yeah.
She's great.
Seriously, I could be here all day.
All right.
Yeah. Much
Robert,
love, guys.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
If you guys are listening, make sure you guys like, subscribe, help me get to 1,000. I think we're at like 371 subscribers right now. So the more subscribes, the better.
Yes, please.
And see you guys in the next podcast.
Cheers.
Peace.